are not contributing. I'm just here talking alone. If I ask somebody to say something, they stay mute, then that is not the essence of, basically, that's not how we do things at TCC. At TCC, it's always hands-on and it's always participatory, because that is the only way we can learn. We also learn, including myself, I learn quite a lot of things during such sessions. Even though I have trained for a long time, I get tips from participants like yourselves. I get a lot of training, basically a lot of tips and also some tricks from people. They say, okay, this has been my experience. This is how I dealt with it. So I also pick that and use it in the next training. So that is how we also grow knowledge. No one has the monopoly of some of these things. So I am also looking forward to learning from you people. But then, how many of you have published at least one scientific paper? Kindly just give me a thumbs up, or you can write in the chat. How many papers have you published? 1, 2, 0 is also a number. We will start from here. So I will read the chat and just see, so that I know our experiences. How many papers have you published? Let's start from there. 0 is also a number, remember I said. So even if it's 0, I think if it's 0, it's even better, because that's the reason we are here. So it's not like if you've never published a paper, you should shy away from just saying, hey, I have published 0. If you have published 75 papers, just say I have published 75 papers. Because then it's now easier for me to know that we are at different, so we see some have not published, some have published 1, some have published 2, some have published 7, some have published 3, some are in the process of publishing. Someone has published 1, there's another one that is still under review. So this just demonstrates that we are at different levels. Anthony has published 0 kaput. Not yet. Yes. So this is one of the reasons why we are here, so that we demystify some of these things. I think, not to accuse anyone, but I think some of us have been trained, including myself, in certain quarters that I'm not going to mention. Sometimes we have been trained to believe that these things are so difficult that they can only be done by people with certain set of skills, which is not right. These things are doable. We have demonstrated this time and again with the mentees that we have at TCC Africa, because we also mentor. We also do one-on-one mentorship programs when people have specific needs that cannot be answered during such calls. So the truth is, we have seen that with the right guidance and with the right tips here and there, people have been able to publish papers in very good journals. So if you ask me, that is something that is possible even for those who have never published a paper. There are people who might, even when you talk about a manuscript for publication, they are like, what does does it even look like? What does it look like? Is it, because sometimes when you read papers, you find they're already structured. Now, for those who have never published a paper, could you tell us a reason? Maybe just 1 or 2 people can just volunteer to speak. Tell us why you have never published a paper. Maybe I'm not going to mention names. That's why I said we are going to freely interact, and you freely, when I call upon, you just unmute and just say something. Why have you not published? Anybody who wants to share their experience?
Yeah, I think I can share. My name is Aluel.
Yes, Aluel.
I think it's just always felt out of reach. I have published research, but not scientific one in any journal. I think I've just never felt like I know where to even begin if I needed to publish something that would have gone through like peer review and from like a journal. So yeah, inaccessibility, I think for me has been an issue.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. I hope at the end of this session, you will have an idea of where to start from. Any other person who also wants to share their experience on why they have never published a paper? Anyone at all? There is no structure of who speaks and who doesn't. Any gentleman? Because they said what a lady can do, a man can do better.
Yes, excuse me, doctor.
Yes, Tongu.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, mine, I have published a conference paper Because I'm a student from Uganda Matters University, PhD.
Yes.
So I was able to participate in conference last year in December, and then that paper has been published under the university. But I have been trying to work on a review paper. The only challenge I have faced is how to, the anatomy of a review paper and how to go with it, and that is where I have challenges up to now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy that at least you have a paper out there with your name on it. And yeah, we are doing a project with Uganda Matthias University. So there's an agroecology project we are doing together with. So I've met researchers from Uganda Matthias University. We are doing a project with them here. So we are partners. Anyway, so people have different reasons why they have not published, and I hope that at the end of this, we might not have answered all the questions, but at the end of it, I know you should be motivated. Yes, Alice. Alice also wants to. Yeah, Alice.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
My name is Alice. I work with Busitema University.
Mm-hmm.
I have published, but I just want to give my experience that the first paper I put in the journal, I almost got discouraged because I had too many comments. They said if you want, you can work on the comments and resubmit, but there were just too many, and the indication was that the paper was rejected. But if you wish, I almost got discouraged, but I realized that those many comments gave me confidence and experience to be able to work on many other publications I've done. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think you have brought out something that is very important. I think one thing, and especially for those who are just starting out, when comments become too many, you read and you realize, hey, these people are poking too many holes into my research. It's like I didn't do anything here, and people get discouraged. And worse is when your paper gets rejected. My first ever manuscript that I got out of my master's thesis was rejected. My first ever submission, it came back with a rejection. And my supervisor told me, rejection is part of this game. So just pick it up. Look at the reason, look at the reason why they rejected it, work on what that is, and then if they offered you to, rework on it and resubmit, yeah, do that. But if you feel like submitting elsewhere, it was submitted elsewhere, but the rejection came with very valuable comments that strengthened my paper. So rejection is part of the game. I'm not saying you should celebrate it, but it's part of the game. Deal with it. Don't be discouraged. But also when the comments are too many, these comments are there, as Alice has said, to help you also build on the quality of your paper. Yes, Peter and Moit, you should at least share your experience as the last person, and then we move on to the next. Yes, Peter? Peter, please.
Yeah, now I have unmuted. Sorry, I published mine last year.
Yeah.
And what Alice has said, there are comments that sometimes weaken your spirit, but as you have explained, it is part of the game. They strengthen you, they help you know the game also, the ropes of the game. So mine did not go, I didn't have a lot of comments. They just commented on structure and just to remove other parts, but it was okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for reaffirming the fact that these comments are not mostly when we train also people, because at TCC also train people how to peer review, how to do peer review, and how to give feedback even to your students. There are sessions where we just train on peer review and how to give feedback and how to structure actionable feedback. It's important because I know you will start reviewing. You will start peer reviewing for journals, and when you start doing that, make sure you are not the kind that discourages people. Sometimes you find comments that you feel are personal and they discourage you. So make sure you give actionable and humane comments that somebody can act on. Okay, so that's that. There's another hand that is raised. Collins, I don't want to lock you out so that you can also share your experience. Yes, Collins. Collins Ogola. Okay, we can go to Rehema Mtonga. Maybe Collins is not ready. Yes, Rehema?
Okay, thank you very much. To me, the reason for not publishing in a scientific journal, I think because at first I was placed in a clinical area in the hospital, and that was not really a requirement compared. Right now, I'm thinking of publishing because it's one of the requirements so that you can move from one stage to the other. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that's one of the things that the reasons why TCC also insists that we train people in some of these things, because in some instances, for you to move, for you to be promoted, or for you to gain certain points, you must publish. So you either publish or perish. So we don't want people who are affiliated to TCC Africa to perish. So even if you are not going to answer all the questions I have told you, you can always reach out to TCC. We have so many mentors. If you feel that you need somebody to hold your hands and walk the journey with you, there are mentors in different fields at TCC Africa. You can always reach out to TCC officially and say, hey, this is the kind of mentorship I need. There will be an arrangement. So TCC will guide you on that, what there needs to be done. So we move from here to the next part of this. As I said, it's just going to be a discussion. I know most of us or some of us already have an experience writing some of these things, but it's going to be a discussion so that we know how then. So some people think that writing is very hard. I think we have explained, some of you have explained why you feel it's a bit hard, but I also don't want to lock someone out. So do you think writing is hard? And if it is, why do you feel it's hard? Maybe someone can share the experience. What is your experience? Because there are people who say writing scientific papers is quite difficult. Why do you think so? Why? What is it that makes people feel like writing is difficult or it's hard work? Anybody anybody at all? I don't have to call out names. Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, Tongu.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the major challenge in writing a scientific paper is the problem of reading. You need to read extensively, and extracting the information from the literature sometimes is a problem because you may delve into papers to support your writing, but if you're not careful, you may even get some irrelevant papers. Some are outdated, and sometimes, like when you're using a referencing manager, you find at the end, after writing, when you come to reference, and you find that some of the literature papers, others don't have the author, others are written in different language, not English. So that one takes one back. And that is a challenge, meaning extracting the literature to fit your work or to support your writing is a challenge to most of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's why TCC has trained, and even last week we had a training on some tools, including some AI tools that you can now use to extract information, to read papers, and do all these things. So it might not be part of our training today, but just to help let you know that we have been training people as well on the various tools that you can use. So I think one of the reasons we are saying is people feel writing is hard because because for you to write, you must read. And sometimes, where do I get papers to read from, relevant papers? And even if I get them, how do I extract information that is going to support my writing? Because you might, as you said, there's a lot of papers online, or there's a lot of papers out there. You might end up just extracting papers that are not useful, and they might not end up, or they can even end up confusing you. So those are the things. So if you've never published, I was just like you as a master's student, and then this was my first publication. I was really happy when I received the link. When finally your paper is published and you are told you can access your paper through this link. Now you click on the link, and then you go and find that the paper is behind a paywall. So even yourself as the author, you cannot access it. How does that make you feel as an author? Anybody at random, just share your experience, because this is what builds our story here. You published a paper like this one. I published this paper. I was so excited. I want to just download and just admire because of the structure, how the papers are. And then you click on that link, and then you realize the paper is hidden behind a paywall. How does that make you feel? In fact, it's still hidden behind a paywall today. How does that make you feel as an author, that you cannot access your own paper? Okay, so no one wants to share how that makes them feel. Anyway, I think it brings you to the realization that we need to think about open access as or basically all the tenets of open science in our, and we need to champion for open science in scientific learning and communication, because if you have a very nice paper with very good recommendations or very good data and it's hidden behind a paywall, let's say you are funded by the EU or by any other person to do research on cancer treatment or pain management in cancer treatment, and you've got very nice results, but then these results are published and then hidden behind a paywall. I don't think that's doing service to humanity. So we need to think about open science and open access. And if you can publish open access, that's always the best. I'm not saying it's possible all the time, but let's strive as much as possible. Anyway, so writing is not very difficult. It starts by, just you getting in the mood. So different people get in the mood differently. So some people will listen to music, some will dance, some will take press-ups, some will go out and smoke, some will take a shot of whiskey, depending on how you want to get yourself in the mood and detach yourself from the other things so that you say, okay, after this, I'm focusing solely on this paper, okay? Then after getting into the mood, you write your first draft. Then after that, you revise, and then you finish. It's simple. I don't know why people keep complicating these things. Scientific writing is so difficult. What is difficult here? What is difficult in getting in the mood, writing your first draft, revising like 3 times or maybe 27 times, and then finishing? It's not really difficult. This should be what we call easy peasy. Yeah, but again, it's easier said than done until you sit down to start working on it. Then you realize, hey, it's not as easy as I thought. Yeah, so, writing should be fun, but then only if you have the right mindset and if you have the right tools. Right now, with the advent of AI, there are several tools that can help you, I'm not saying these tools will replace your brain as a researcher or your critical thinking, because they can't. But then they can help you make work a bit easier, a little bit. So this is me, sprinkling my research topic in every normal conversation, especially when I'm talking with my peers. You have this researcher from Cornell University who is just a casual friend, and you are talking, and he says, Nicholas, you've been quiet for some time, my friend. I don't even see you posting on Facebook anymore. What is happening? Then you say, a lot is happening. And then you say, I changed my research topic to talk about, it's yeah, and we keep sprinkling our research topic in every conversation. It's just how researchers are, and especially when you start publishing, it becomes addictive. And you have, especially when you are talking to people whom you think understand your field or are passionate about academics and scientific writing, you can't help but sprinkle research topics here and there in your conversations, normal conversations. But remember, as we go through all these things, in science, the credit goes to the one who convinces the world, not to the one to whom the idea first occurs. That is according to Sir Francis Darwin. So I'll repeat this, that in science, the credit goes to the one who convinces the world, not to the one to whom the idea first occurs. An idea can occur to you first, but if I pick that idea and write about it and convince the world, then credit goes to me, not to you. So you will keep saying, that was originally my idea. Nicholas just published it. Yes, I published it, so credit will go to me. That's why we really need to think about how then do we convince the world. So we can only convince the world by publishing our works, putting them out there. So if somebody tries to claim ownership, they will be told, hey, so-and-so already published that paper, or that idea is already out there. So if you're going to modify, no problem, but then this idea is already out there. This should sit with you for a long time. And this should challenge you to go back to those manuscripts that you left halfway inside your laptop, because no one is coming there to read them. They can only be read, and they can only be used to convince the world if they are published and if they're on the internet. Take this as a sign that you didn't read this red text by mistake. You read it as a reminder that you want to convince the world. You keep saying, I'm a researcher, I work with the Research Institute, we do a lot of projects. But then where is the work? Where are the papers? We can't read them. So if somebody picks that idea and publishes it first, credit will go to them, not to you. So we don't care whose idea it was. We care who published it. This is a sign. The red text is assigned to you. Don't sit comfortable. Don't sit pretty. After this training today, go back, dig into your computer. All those manuscripts you've not been working on, start again. Just struggle with them. If you struggle too much, then you can always reach out to TCC and say, oh, I already have a draft here, but I need somebody to help me polish, help me read through. They will always guide you and give you somebody in your field who can be able to read and assist. So the red text is a sign. I hope this speaks to someone here. I don't just want an amen, but I know someone would say amen. Yes, and then at the end of it, I would collect some tithe and offering. But then this red text should sit with you. This red text should challenge you. Even if you don't pick anything from this training today, just know that in science, credit goes to the one who convinces the world, not to the one to whom the idea first occurs. Let that sink. Okay? Now, let's say I'll just give a highlight of the publication process. So after you submit your paper, it takes a long time, and that's why for a PhD student or a master student, especially the ones that I'm supervising, I always tell them you must have a plan, your writing plan very early. Your publication plan should come very early as soon as your proposal is approved. You must start from there, okay? So the author submits, you are the author, you submit. I am an editor at +1. I'm an academic editor with +1, and I know what happens behind the scenes. So you submit your paper, an editor is assigned to your manuscript. So I get an email. So maybe the head editor or the chief editor has assigned me a paper because they think it falls within aquatic foods or aquatic systems or aquaculture or fisheries. Then the editor assigns reviewers. So sometimes we reach out to reviewers, we send them emails, and this is where also we have a challenge because then very few people will accept to review. Everyone is busy. But anyway, we look for reviewers. The reviewers will decide to review the paper or not. Then several reviewers, 1 or 2 or 3, can inspect your paper. They give you the feedback. You work on the feedback. The editor looks at this, and then sometimes we send them back to the reviewer and say, hey, this person has submitted the corrected version of their manuscript based on the review comments. Just go through it and confirm if all the reviews or all the comments have been addressed successfully or adequately. Then the paper is sent back to the author. The reviewers will look at it and say, okay, this has been done, but then this still needs to be done, or everything is okay. Then it's sent back to the journal. Then the journal gives it to you. All those things, it can be accepted, or anything can happen in between. But there's something that is called peer review. And the peer review, sometimes some of us just hear the word peer review. We just don't know what it is. So I know. Okay. I know that some of us have heard of the word peer review. Most of us know what it is. It's just somebody looking, your peers looking at your work. So people within your field looking at what you have written to see whether it is science or if it's not science, or if it is science that is structured in a way that makes sense, okay? So it is a process for scientists by scientists. So the purpose is to filter what is published as science and to provide researchers with perspective. So it is used in scientific publications, grant review, and tenure promotions. And this is sometimes what delays publications. I have a paper that stayed in the process for 2 years. By the time it was published, I had almost even forgotten about it. But then in between, there were a lot of back and forth. So peer review can really derail you. But then sometimes when, okay, I'll just splash this. So sometimes when you are submitting your paper, you're told, because sometimes we have problems getting peer reviewers, is it possible for you to recommend some reviewers for your work so that we also don't delay? We might delay, not out of our own desire, but sometimes we find it difficult to get. So within your field, peer reviewers. Is it possible for you too? So imagine these are the people I'm recommending to review my paper, the people we hang out with. What is the danger of doing this to you as a researcher? If you are told to recommend peer reviewers and then you recommend only your friends whom you know will give your paper favorable review so that your paper can be accepted. What is the dangers of this? Is it okay? And if it is not, what is the problem with this? is it fine to, recommend these people, or is it wrong? Just tell me your opinion, what you think.
I think personally, I wouldn't be sure if they were impartial because they're my friends. So I think also it comes with a level of to what extent can people put their biases aside and be genuine. But I think I would be concerned about biasness for sure.
Thank you. Michael, yes.
Good morning, Daktari. That's a good presentation. That would be wrong to give your friends and colleagues not residing in the publication world to review your papers or to be your referees would be wrong. So I would rather give it to people who can critique and give me positive influence. Otherwise, I will be cheating myself. Thank you.
What if they are from your field? It's not like they're outside. These are people within the field of fisheries and aquaculture. We work with them, but they are the ones I'm recommending. They are from my field, yes. But we are this close. We hang out together, we drink together, we attend parties together. They are within my field, Michael.
Okay, in that case, it's still not good because at the end of the day, they will not be fair. They will be biased because of our friendship. One or two may help, but I must get others one in my field who I want to give me positive critique.
Thank you so much. There's someone who was speaking. There's a lady who started saying something. Her voice got. Yes.
Yeah, that is unethical, and it also brings in a conflict of interest when in this paper you are writing. First of all, according to it's unethical completely to use a friend to review your paper, and it's a conflict of interest. That's how I can summarize it. Thank you.
Thank you. There is another last person. I saw their hands, and then I don't know whether they just gave up and lowered their hands. I want your hand. I'm just going to see who is there. Anthony Nyanjek.
Oh, I think you will end up with a shallow review in totality. In totality, just from the start to the end. And shallow meaning that maybe the frameworks you wanted to discuss, they couldn't be more conversant with the ideas. So generally, you end up with a shallow review with no meaningful impact.
Thank you so much.
Basically,
go ahead.
So basically, your objectives of the paper won't be met.
Thank you. I think we are in agreement that fine, you can recommend them, but only if you can carry the risks. The problem with this is we send papers out because we are you as a writer or as authors, because maybe you are 3 or 4 authors, you are so close to this work that you cannot even see glaringly obvious mistakes in this paper. So you want to send it out to somebody who does not know you, or even if they do, they are objective enough to be able to give you a good review. The problem with this is something that is, for lack of a better word, a stupid mistake can slip through this peer review process. And then the paper is published with something that is so damning that you look at it and say, I wish I had given this to someone else because this guy was my friend. He was not looking at this with a lot of detail and a lot of objectivity. So, you run the risk of, just having a paper, being published with glaringly mistakes that could have been avoided if it was given to someone else. But what are the constraints of the peer review? I think we talked about it being slow. Sometimes you have conflicting views. As a reviewer, as a reviewer also, but also as an editor, sometimes you find 2 reviewers have recommended a rejection. One reviewer has recommended that the paper be accepted, or the paper was reviewed by 2 reviewers. One says reject, another one says accept. So some of these conflicting views and all these things. So as an editor, you have to sit down and make an informed judgment. But then I want us to read what Richard Horton, who is the editor of Lancet, says about peer review. I will just read. I will not say anything. Editors and scientists portray peer review as a quasi-sacred process that helps to make science our most objective truth teller. But we know that the system of peer review is biased, unjust, unaccountable, incomplete, easily fixed, often insulting, usually ignorant, occasionally foolish, and frequently wrong. This is the editor of the Lancet saying that about the peer review process. Now, this reflects the frustration that so many scholars have, and especially with the peer review process. But it's part of the publishing process. So, yeah, what do we do with it? I've just read that. I said I'm not giving my opinion. That is his opinion. Then we talk about scientific misconduct. I know we are going to develop a manuscript. Don't worry. We are going there. We are going to develop the manuscript from top to bottom. Don't think that we are not going there. This is just building the story so that we understand, even before we write the manuscript, what are some of the scientific misconducts that we need to avoid, for example. There's what we call gift authorship. Gift authorship is where you have a friend or you have a spouse and they're publishing a paper and you tell them, hey, I just want to put you in one of my papers. As a gift. They have no idea what the paper is about. They didn't participate in any of those things. What is the dangers of this? What are the dangers of just gift authorship, especially on you who is being gifted, the giftee, so to speak? What are the dangers if you accept somebody to add you onto a paper as a gift? What are the dangers of gift authorship? Hello?
Sorry, in this context, are you being added as a co-author or what do you mean?
As a co-author, so you are added in the list of authorship as a gift. You didn't participate, you didn't do anything. This is just a friend adding your name or a spouse or somebody you are used to. What are the dangers?
It goes against the principle of contribution in writing.
Mm-hmm. The other risk to you, the person being gifted the authorship. Let me give you a scenario here. You've been gifted an authorship. Yes, Anthony. Anthony?
Wanasema when it rumbers you, probably it might not. Ikikuramba, maybe they'll, pull up that kind of card.
Yes, that could be, somebody would say you're working on a different project and they tell you, hey, I want my name on that paper. Then you start bringing issues. They tell you, don't play games here, my friend.
Yeah.
You know how we do it. Yeah. So sometimes they can use this against you. That's very possible it can be used against you. Yes, Michael?
I wanted to say that in an event that a colleague reaches to you, I don't understand what the paper talks about. It will mean that you are really completely irrelevant. You start fumbling and making reference to somebody, which means it's unethical and you know nothing about the paper. That's what it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen.
You've spoken my mind. I don't know whether I think I don't know, but we are at the same wavelength. That is exactly what I wanted to say. You go for a conference and you find somebody who respects you so much. Dr. Nicholas, I've been reading your papers. There is this paper actually that you are writing about the use of chicken feathers in the formulation of fish feeds. Yeah, we read this paper you wrote with so and so. Yeah, quite an interesting paper. Then he pulls you on the side and starts saying, we are also doing something like that. But then what do you think about, now they are engaging you with, regarding the actual content of the paper. You have no idea what the paper was about. Now, you can imagine what that does to your credibility as a researcher. Because they will look at you and say, then they might not tell you to your face, but then they will start looking at you very differently. Even if they wanted to engage you in a project or they wanted to engage you in a publication, they will be like, okay, I have reservations about this guy. There is a paper they published and he appears to be clueless. So it can hurt you ultimately as a researcher. So if somebody wants to add you to a paper, tell them, hey, is it possible for you to send me that paper so that I get to understand what is in it? So that and you could know what is happening in the paper, but it's not in your subject area completely. So you still can shoot yourself in the foot in the process of trying to have more papers. Because if, like in my case here, I am in the field of fisheries and aquaculture, and I write mostly about fisheries, about aquaculture, about management systems, but I'm not a fisheries policy guy. I have really not an idea, not so much, just scratch on the surface. So if I write a deeply, or some modeling, something that goes with the aquatic modeling or aquaculture modeling or aquaculture engineering, these are things I don't know. So unless it is a biological aspect of that system, I cannot talk about the engineering aspect of a system, how the water flow rates, all these things. So if I accept to be included in such kind of a paper, I will struggle to explain all those engineering equations and those models. So be modest, just be sincere and tell them, hey, I know you want to be part of it. I can help you do a few things here and there, but it will be tricky. The other scientific misconduct is redundant publication. Redundant publication is where some people call it, sometimes it's also called salami publication, where you get just enough data to publish, and then you maybe sometimes you end up publishing the same data in different ways. Then there's plagiarism, where this is called kidnapping, where you kidnap someone's idea and you use it without clear attribution. Then there's fabrication, and then there's falsification. So this is where you get data and you want it to speak to what you already have in your head. Yeah, this is just an example of our paper that was accepted, all those things. Now, writing a manuscript, now this is where we are going to. So we have an abstract, an introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion, and references. So many sections can change depending on the journal you are dealing with. So you need to go to the journal website, and the journal website will tell you this is how you need to arrange your paper. So these are the subheadings. This is what goes under each subheading. Otherwise, different journals would have. So we are going just to talk about generally what goes into what section without really strictly saying that this is what should appear here. No, I'm just going to talk about generally. If it's an introduction, what should appear in an introduction? If it's going to be the materials and methods, what goes into the materials and methods section? So the way a journal will tell you to structure your paper, now that depends on the journal. And now that I have told you that, I don't think I thought this would be the end of the presentation, but this is just the beginning. Now, before I get into the manuscript, I also want to get this out of the way, that scientific writing is as much about science as it is about writing. Scientific writing is as much about science as it is about writing, but for some reason, we tend to forget about the writing. And that's why our goal should be to change the mindset about writing. Okay, so we focus mostly on writing grants, setting up experiments, collecting data, analyzing that data, and then it stays in our computers, or we write, back to office reports and it stays there. But then we need to think about scientific writing as being as important as the science itself, or the data collection and all these other processes themselves. So this is why our goal should be to change the mindset about writing. Remember, the red text, don't forget about the red text. That credit will go to whoever convinces the world first, not the one to whom the idea first occurred. So let's remember that, okay? But then you need to keep practicing to improve your skills. So you can see me reading an old manuscript back to myself. Sometimes I read the manuscripts I wrote, the first two manuscripts I produced, just when I had just completed my master's, and I sometimes read my introduction and say, this is so difficult for somebody to understand what this paper is talking about. How did I even introduce these results the way I did? There is no rationale, there is no background information, there is no justification of this problem, there is no gap, nothing. So yeah, we must keep practicing. So we read them and then say, I didn't know like I know today. So yeah, but we keep practicing. Okay. Those ones are things I might not be really easy to, those are just because these notes will be shared. Some of them you can just read by yourself. But then there is a difference between authors and readers. Now, authors are journal focused, while readers are article focused. I will explain. As an author, I am focusing on the quality of journal where I'm publishing my paper. So I'll say, okay, I only want to publish papers in a specific journal because of maybe the impact factor, all those things. But then the reader does not care. Most readers will say, okay, I will focus on what is contained in the article. Of course, there are readers who also look at where the paper was published. But then most of them will say, okay, let me just download that paper and just read the actual content just to judge by myself. It could have been published I've seen papers that were published in, whatever people call the big journals. But then you realize, hey, there are a lot of mistakes in between, within that paper that you say, sometimes even smaller journals do better. So it means that then authors want to publish more while readers want to read less. So readers that do not want to read a lot of things, but then authors want to publish as many papers as possible. I think I've talked about this, that scientists spend time writing proposals, planning research, taking experiments, analyzing data, and reading related articles. The ultimate aim of most scientists is to publish their research findings in professional scientific reports. And there are several of them. We will look at them. Now, what are the hallmarks of a good scientific writing? What is it that when you see in a paper, you will say, good, this one is a good piece of scientific writing? Maybe somebody can say something before I show you what is on the slides. What is it that when you see, you would say, this is some good piece of work? Anybody?
Can you say the question again? My internet is not very stable. What's your question again? My internet is not very stable.
Oh, I'm just asking, what are those qualities that you see in a scientific writing or a paper, and you say, yeah, this is some good piece of scientific writing? What are those qualities that you see and say this is some good piece of writing?
I think the logical flow of the sections of the paper, the logical flow, right from the introduction to the methodology up to the conclusion, the logical flow. When you read the paper and you see the logical flow, for example, you look at the introduction, and really the introduction brings out what is supposed to bring out. And when you look at the methodology, it really brings out, if it's an experiment, and it's bring out exactly what it's supposed to bring out. The logical flow up to the conclusion for me, and the content within it makes me look at it, and it's a very good paper. Thank you.
So the flow and the structure. Yes, Kimanthi?
Okay.
Sorry, we can't hear completely.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Moses, I can hear you, but I couldn't hear Kimanthi.
Okay, so can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Nicholas. To me, to see that the paper is actually good is to look at the abstract. Is the abstract having the flow? Even if I don't read the whole paper, can I easily get the whole information in the abstract, brief, and having the recommended words? Thank you.
Thank you so much. There is, I have seen Antero Pon Afeku. Go ahead.
Yes, I think the paper should be with the clarity that the idea is understood easily, expressed in very clear words without ambiguity, and also it should be accurate. For example, the data, the information is very accurate, so it can be understood. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the last person maybe to also give their opinion before. Yes, I'm seeing Philip Opio.
Can you
Yes,
hear me?
Philip? Yes, I can hear you.
Now you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I wanted to say that I'm not sure if
We can't hear it. It comes and disappears. I don't know whether it's the audio or maybe your internet. So Philip, go ahead.
Okay, thank you and good morning. I'm audible now.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Philip.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, so I'll just know that the paper is good when some the presentation or maybe graphic or maybe visual aids, there's some citations, And so with that data presentation, I'll just know that this scientific writing is good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think I'll stop this here and I think most of you have said almost everything that I needed to present here. So I will just, because they are on my slides anyway, I will have to present them, but you have said pretty much everything. The first one here, sorry, what's happening? My slides have refused. Okay, the first one is accuracy. Now, when you are writing a paper, you need to get the facts straight and convey them without distortion. Remember, when we were talking about falsification and fabrication, accuracy is a hallmark of good scientific writing. Clarity, you talked about this already. So your style should facilitate understanding of your meaning, not interfere. So your style of writing should be clear enough to facilitate understanding of your meaning. And then brevity or conciseness. So do not waste your reader's time and patience with wasted words. However, if brevity interferes with clarity, give preference to a clear statement of meaning. So brevity is where you are trying to be as concise, you are trying not to use a lot of cliche words or a lot of things. But then if you realize that I'm trying to be too concise and in the process I'm losing meaning, then you need to think about how then do I give preference to a clear statement of meaning, even if I'm going to add a bit more words or a bit more sentences. Then elegance. Make your prose easy to read, interesting, and pleasant to the ear. Avoid lifeless verbs or cliche expressions and monotonous rhythms in paragraphs. Now, one thing that I see, especially with very brilliant people that I sometimes interact with, like the ones in this room, you will agree with me that you end up writing very long sentences. I see this a lot, and especially with those who are just starting out. Because your brain as a scientist, your brain overtakes you. So you write because you think as you write. And because you are a fast thinker, you think very fast and you write very fast. So you end up writing very long sentences. And these long sentences end up interfering with meaning. So you write very long paragraphs or long sentences. When you write a sentence and realize, because I have read papers where people write 3 sentences, not sentences, but 3 lines, 1 sentence, 3 lines. When you read through, you realize that those could be 2 different things you have put in 1 sentence. So 1 sentence should pass 1 information. When you write very long sentences, go back, read through them, and ask yourself, I'm seeing these sentences. I think they're quite long. Is it possible that I can break them into manageable chunks? There was an advert in Kenya where someone was, I think it was an advert by a bank, where that guy was saying he was being loaded with loans. And at one point, please mute yourself. You are interfering. Please. So somebody was being loaded with a lot of loans, and at one point he was begging them, give me in manageable chunks, please. So when you write sentences and read them and realize they are too long, just make sure you break them into manageable chunks. That enhances your. So this is just a presentation of what we were talking about: accuracy, clarity, brevity, and elegance. Okay, so elegance enhances readability and engagement. Brevity, you need to respect your reader's time and patience, and clarity facilitates ease of understanding. Now, there are several forms of scientific communication. We are not going to talk about them. I think we know most of them. We have conference presentations, thesis and dissertations, popular science articles, books and monographs, scientific communication events, research articles. So today we are talking about peer-reviewed journals. That is what we are talking about here. So these ones are there's so many of them. When these notes are shared, you can just read, You also can borrow from here, just maybe for the purposes of your own training. There's no problem. TCC does not have issues with you borrowing part of some of these things. That's why we talk about open science and open access. Now, in general, writing the article should flow. The writing of the article should flow with the dedication of effort put on what the researcher sets to do, what was done, what was found out, discussion of what was found. The main possible outcomes could be any of this. So when you submit your paper, or the review process can result into accept, which is very rare. And if you are sent out your paper today, and tomorrow you are told your paper has been accepted for publication without anybody asking you a single question, you need to ask yourself, am I dealing with a genuine journal, or am I dealing with a predatory journal. There's the possibility that you will be told to revise and resubmit. So it means you are interested, yes, but you need to do some changes. Then there is the possibility of reject and resubmit. So it means that we are still interested, but you need to rework it. Then there's a possibility of reject. So just reject it based on certain things. So it could be either it does not fit within the scope of the journal where you have submitted it, or the content maybe has a bit of issues. So those could be some of the reasons why papers could be. But then a rejection most of the time comes with very valuable feedback that if you incorporate, then your paper becomes very strong. Now, then we have the title, the abstract, the introduction, materials and methods, results and discussions and conclusions, recommendations, all those things. We are going to look at each and every single part of it. Okay. So we will start with this because this is the general idea of what is in the papers. Then we will go ahead now to start talking about each part. But the summary is the title. The title provides a concise overview of the study's focus. Then we go to an abstract that summarizes the study's objectives, methods, results, and conclusions. An introduction that sets the stage with background information and research questions. The methodology, this is where the methodology details the research design and procedures for replicability. The results now present the data collected during the study. The discussion interprets the results and explores implications. Conclusion summarizes findings and suggests applications. The references have list of all cited sources for credibility. And then sometimes we have what we call the acknowledgements, where we express gratitude to contributors. So there are people who did not appear as part of the authorship, but there's something they did. They took us to the field. There are community members who allowed us to collect data. There are community leaders the gatekeepers within these communities that took us around, showing us how then to interact with these people, interpretation. So we want to, or somebody helped us with data analysis, or they helped us with the sample processing and analysis, and we are not going to put them as part of the publication. So we acknowledge, or there's an institution that paid or sponsored the research or allowed us to use their equipment or their spaces or their laboratories. We acknowledge, okay? Now, one of the things before we now get into the actual writing, because then the different parts will not take a very long time, key planning aspects of scientific writing, you need to plan yourself. And I think before I even talk about what is on the screen is you need to decide about the story you want to tell, okay? What story do you want to tell? Because that gives you an idea of then how to structure all these parts. If you don't have a story so each manuscript should have a story that should flow from the beginning to the end. I'm not talking about what the actual thing people are going to read. That's not a problem. They will read what you've written. But you need to have your own story figured out. So I collected data on the prevalence of malaria among expectant mothers along the Lake region, for example, like in Busia County as an example. So then what story do I want to say? What is it that I want to, what is that story I want to take out there with my paper? Because that guides you so that anytime you feel like you are writing the conclusion, writing the introduction, or interpreting the results in a way that does not convey, that goes outside the story that you want to talk about, then it means that it will always bring you back. It will always bring you back to the story. So it helps you audit the story. Okay. Now we start now with the title. Okay. So the title sums up your work in a single phrase or sentence. Why is the title very important, and why should we pay a lot of attention to it? Because it is read by the largest number of readers. Just the title of your paper. So the title is read by those who read the actual paper in the journal, and is also read by those who read it in the secondary or abstracting and indexing databases. So it should be informative, specific, and concise. We always recommend that you try to keep it below 20 words. So if it's going more than 20 words, then you realize I'm no longer writing a title. I'm writing a sentence, maybe a very long one at that. So you make sure, because it's people, this is the level of your paper. So this is what is going to attract people to your paper. So if the title is not concise, it's not specific, and it's not informative enough, then people might just scroll past your paper because the title was not informative enough. Okay, so think about that as you form your title. So the title should be as few words as possible, but still informative. So if you can keep it below 20, that's fine. So it should describe the content accurately. It should describe subject specifically. In as much as you can, I have seen strong recommendations that in the title try to avoid omit verbs. The reason is not always very clear to me, but the recommendation I'm seeing from researchers is that when you're writing a title, try to convert those verbs into nouns. So if it's about investigating, instead of saying investigating the effects of, then you could say investigation of. The reason is not totally very clear to me, but I have seen it recommended in so many scientific writing and publication podcasts, and also in the reasoning is not always very, very clear to me. They always recommend that if there's a way you can convert these verbs into nouns, then that would be the best. Then the title should also be easy to understand, and it should be suitable for indexing. Okay. Now, in your title, do not promise more than what is in the paper. Okay. So let's say if you did gene sequencing and you did not do any editing at all, so you didn't do gene editing. In your title, don't talk about gene editing if you didn't do it, because what will happen is somebody who needs information about gene editing will get into that paper and realize you didn't do any gene editing. That person will never read your papers again, because they will say, this guy, the last time I went into his paper, he lied to me and wasted my time and effort. So do not promise what is not in the paper. And also cut unnecessary words. Some notes on a study of, a case study of, try to, as much as possible describe without, having to explain again a study on a case of, no. Then also avoid abbreviations and jargon in your title. I'm not saying you avoid jargons completely, but if you have a jargon, then make sure, if possible, you have a common word or a common phrase or a common name in the bracket so that somebody gets to understand. The paper I was showing you was about Nile perch. Now, the scientific name of Nile perch is Lattes niloticus. But then this fish, these days, there's a lot that people want to know about the fish. And if you wrote a paper and the title only contained the jargon, that is the scientific name, somebody could be looking for information about Nile perch. But then because they are not from your field and they don't know that Lattes niloticus is Nile perch, they will skim over this paper without knowing that they are passing a paper on Nile perch. So if you have a jargon, make sure you have a common name in brackets so that somebody who does not come from your field understands. Okay? Choose all words carefully. I've talked about avoiding abbreviations, especially those that cannot be understood. Jargon, chemical formulae that would be difficult for people to understand completely. But then also, I always tell people, don't struggle getting the perfect title at the beginning of your writing. Just have what we call a working title. Okay, so have something little just to guide you, because then at the end of the day, you will read through your paper and say, I want to get 20 words that will summarize everything that I have written in this paper. So you might end up struggling at the beginning to get a perfect title, and then at the end you realize, hey, I need to change this whole thing that took me 2 days to just formulate. So have something, just a working thing that guides you. Then sometimes it may even be the last to be written. Okay. So I will not read all these things, but then here is just an example. So poor biodiversity threat. So that is the title. So that title is, a poor title could be, if you write a biodiversity threat as a title to your paper, somebody does not know what that is about. But if you write threat to biodiversity from invasive alien species in constructed wetlands of Okavango Delta, for example, and maybe you put comma and write the country, then this is very clear that this paper writes about threat to biodiversity from what? Invasive species, where? Constructed wetlands of which? Of Okavango Delta. So you try to be as specific as possible. Okay. Then sometimes when you are writing papers, you find that some journals, when you're submitting the journal, will tell you it has a space where you will paste the entire the exact title, the entire title of the paper you are publishing, and then they will ask you for a running or a short title. So they will tell you, alongside the actual paper or alongside the actual title of the paper, we want you to also to submit what we call a short or a running title. Okay, so this one helps you sometimes when they want to do a short version or they want to put it in certain, there are journals that will put in certain databases where they only do a running title or a short title. If you are asked to give a running title or a short title, provide it by yourself. Don't rely on the journal to truncate your title and give you a short title. What they can do, they might end up truncating it at a point that does not make sense. So like in this case, the example they are giving here is the title is Growth, Yield, and Quality Response of Snap Bean Plants to Different Inorganic Fertilizer Application Regimes. The running or short title here could be Response of Snap Beans to Inorganic Fertilizer. So it's not, entirely what is what the title reads, but then it gives a snapshot of what is what this paper is about. So think about this. If they ask you for a short title or a running title, don't say, I don't know what that is. It's just a shorter version of your title, but one that still makes sense, that if somebody reads, they know what that is about. Then the authorship, I think we've talked about this a little bit. So an author is one who takes intellectual responsibility for research results being reported. So if you cannot take intellectual responsibility, don't allow yourself to be in that paper. You will embarrass yourself one day. You never know who reads the paper and sees your name, and then they meet you somewhere, and now they start asking you questions and engaging you, and you have no idea about what that paper was about. Then you are already now in trouble. Okay. So an author is one who takes intellectual responsibility for research results being reported. It's a vital matter because perceptions about, so it brings about the perception about contribution and cooperation. And we see these days, increasingly, people are working in groups and working in consortia, and you find papers have more and more authors. You rarely find papers written by a single author, rarely these days, because people work as groups. Now, authorship is often determined by contribution and sometimes even prestige. So, there are people who are, I have had friends, or I have heard it among people saying, if you want your paper to be accepted in that journal, just put Professor so-and-so's name as a co-author, then, that's an easy ticket. I don't know whether that is ethical or not. It depends on what you consider ethical. But for me, I have seen such things happen. So sometimes prestige can also. But then what is the sequence? How then do you decide who becomes author number 1, author number 2, author number 3? Maybe somebody can tell us. How do we decide on the sequence of authorship? Anybody can try. Sequence. Who becomes author number 1? Who becomes author number 2? How do you determine that?
I think, Prof, this depends on the journal. Some journals, the main author becomes number 1, and the second most important author can be the last. For example, if you are a PhD student and you are publishing as the first author, then your supervisor can be the last and other people can be in the middle. But other journals, the order right from the first to the second can also rank as importance. It depends on a journal. But what I've seen usually the first and the last, or the order number 1, number 2 goes like that in importance. Thank you.
Thank you. So partly it could depend on the journal, but also sometimes internally you can decide, hey, this is how we want this name to appear. And there's something I want to ask about corresponding author. Who is a corresponding author? Anybody can go? Because we keep seeing it all the time, and you will have these discussions in your among your peers. Somebody will talk about corresponding author, and the corresponding author has always to be the first author. Author number 1 has to be the corresponding author. Who is a corresponding author? And does it have to be only author number 1 all the time? Anybody can give their opinion on this.
Yes, doctor.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. That question, I came to realize when I was publishing my conference paper, I was meant to be a corresponding author because it was a book chapter of the university. So I think a corresponding author is someone who has taken part in a study, and then the study is under another. For example, like the university may have a book and a chapter. If you are contributing to a chapter of that book, then you become a corresponding author. That is according to my understanding. Thank you.
Anybody wants to give their idea?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I can say
Yes, sir.
something.
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead. Let's start with who started first. I am seeing Rose here and also Alice.
Sir. Okay.
Let's start with I don't know. Let me just see.
Chinomso is here too.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. A corresponding author is the primary contact for a research work. The person that is responsible for submitting the journal or the article, and also communicating with the journal. So the corresponding might not necessarily be the first name on the article, yes, but it's the person that communicates with the journal.
Thank you. Yes, I have heard you. I have heard. Yes. Yes, Rose?
Sorry if there's a lot of background noise. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can clearly.
I would wish to agree with Chinomso. I hope I pronounced that well. It is the person who literally corresponds with the journal, or if it's for a conference purpose, then with the organizers of the conference. And most of the time, this is the person who either does the presentation. When it comes to publishing, most of the time, this is the first author. When it comes to research, most of the time, this is the primary investigator. So a corresponding author is the key person related to the paper or the article that is being looked at.
Thank you. All of us are right. And I think first of all, we must agree that corresponding author does not necessarily have to be the first author. Let's get that out of the way first. Now, the second thing we also have to agree is that the corresponding author is the person communicating. So is the one who is the link between all these other authors and the journal. And this is, how do we select this? Because then you say maybe you have a professor who is the head of everything else. He's the one who understands this thing very deeply. But then he's a professor who receives 3,000 emails in a day, and the journal will send an email to them with comments, and then it slips through the cracks, and then the journal is waiting for you to respond. He reminds the professor sees it in the sea of emails, and then he ignores or says, I'll respond to that later. Or he sees it at one of those maybe emails from journals that are asking him to review for them, and he ignores them. And then finally the journal kicks your paper out and says, we have waited for your response. We have not seen your response to our comments, so it's like we're not interested. But then you ask the professor later on, did you get a communication from the journal? Then they go and try to type searching for emails, and then they realize the email was sent 7-8 months ago. So whoever you want to put as your corresponding author, make sure this is somebody who is accessible, this is someone who is proactive, and this is somebody who can read emails and communicate and tell you this is what is happening. Okay? Now, it means that we also know that universal responsibility for all content should read or approve all versions of the manuscript. Yes, Dan.
Thank you, Doctor, for this session. It's really interactive and engaging. I think I wanted to make a comment that there are some journals that restrict if you're the first author, then you have to be a corresponding author. Or if you're the one submitting, then you have to be the corresponding author. There are some journals that put some of those conditions.
Yeah, thank you yes, I have seen some journals doing that, but I have also seen some journals that will tell you now at the end, we have communicated, we have done all these things. At the end now, at the point of publication, do you want to change the corresponding authorship, or do you want to retain it as it is? So some journals will tell you, yes, if you're the first author, you have to be the corresponding author. But some journals will tell you, fine, the person doing the submission and the correspondences at the end now, when the paper is accepted and is going for production, then they will ask you, do you want to retain the authorship as it is, or are there any changes you want to make? And you can always tell them, we want now to change the corresponding authorship that will appear on the final paper. Yes, but it's true, yes, some journals will have such conditions. I will not read through that. Then after the author's name, that we have So you have the title of the paper, the author's name, then their addresses, like their affiliation. I'm going to run through a raw manuscript so that you just see what this looks like. So the address is where the work was done. So if it was done at the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, Maseno University, PO Box, this Kenya, email, so that somebody knows where these people are affiliated. So when they want to reach out, maybe they cannot reach you directly, or they have an interest, then they would say, okay, I saw a paper that was written and one of the authors was from this department or from this specific university. So it gives bearing of where these people are or where these people were as at the time of the publication. So that one, I don't even need to talk much about it. We just know. Then after that, we have an abstract. An abstract is a summary of the papers, summary of the entire paper. So depending on the journal, some journals will tell you we want a summary that is 150 words, 250, some will give you 200, some will go to 350 or 300, depending on the journal. So just go to instruction to authors in the journal website and you will know how long your abstract should be. But the abstract should be able to stand on its own. So the abstract must have an aspect of an introduction. So introducing just one sentence introducing the problem. Then it needs to talk about the methodology that was used. In summary, the main results that were gotten and a discussion and interpretation of those main results. Okay. At the end of the abstract, we have what we call keywords for indexing. And in the abstract, you need to present findings as facts. So in the abstracts, you do not, there is no reference to literature in the abstract. So when you get to the abstract, there's nothing like, according to Outa et al. 2015 or all this, no. Then there should be no abbreviations, especially those that cannot be understood in the abstract. So we don't want to see in the abstract, you are writing MDV in the abstract, and we don't know what MDV is. So then there is no reference to tables and figures. So in the abstract, we're not going to talk about table 3, figure 3, figure 4, no. Then there are no conclusions that are not substantiated in the paper, in the abstract. So make sure that if you have any conclusions, you substantiate them in the paper. Okay, so you are not just going to, I'm not going to read an abstract and just find conclusions that my supervisor would call political conclusions. They are not based on the paper. You just throw in conclusions there. Now, what are the common mistakes that people make, especially when they're writing the abstracts? So sometimes you find these common mistakes of different font sizes, duplicate words, punctuation errors, poor grammar, all these things. These are normal things. But also the other thing is, in your writing, we always discourage people from use of numerals to start sentences. So when you want to write 12 children, you don't start with 1, 2 children, right? What is on the screen? So you write 12 as 12 when you're using it to start a sentence. But even in the middle of a sentence, if the number is a single digit, write it in words. So if you are saying that we interviewed 3 people, don't write 3. It's not always encouraged when in your writing just to write 3, the number. But if it is 10, 20, or 100, then it's always okay. When there are 2 digits and above, you are in writing. I've seen people being encouraged just to write. It's possible to write if there are more than 1 digit. If the number is more than 1 digit, but if the number is a single digit, like 1, 2, 3, 9, write in words. Okay, or yeah. So these are some of the things. But then also remember, we have what we call structured abstract and unstructured abstract. So a structured abstract is where sometimes you find journals or sometimes conferences will tell you that we want a structured abstract, which means you write a small title called introduction, then you write 2 sentences under it. Methodology, you write 2 sentences under it, so that whoever is reading the abstract knows that this one is talking about the abstract, the introduction, this one is talking about methodology, then main results. So you write very small, whatever it is that you want to write. So if it's 300 words, you divide these 300 words and put them under small subheadings. That is what we call structured abstract. But unstructured abstract is where you have just a block of text, and then now just information flows like that without the simple small subheadings. Okay, these ones I'll not talk about this because then these ones are just what I've talked about, essential elements of an abstract. So we have the purpose, the methods, the results, all those things. I think I have talked about that. So these ones I'm also not going to talk about. It's basically what I was explaining there. Now, at the end of the abstract, there are what we call keywords, and keywords mostly are very important in indexing databases. Some people ask me, Nicholas, how do I select keywords for my paper that I want to publish? It's always very simple. I always tell them, imagine you are looking for a paper that contains the information like the one you want to publish. What keywords would you key in Google Scholar or Dimensions or Science Direct or PubMed? Then they will tell me, I could key in words like infant mortality, infant diarrhea. Then, those are the keywords. So selecting keywords is not a very difficult thing. Just look at the paper you're publishing and ask yourself, if I am a researcher and I'm looking for information or a paper that has information like the ones that I'm publishing in this paper, what kind of keywords would I put in? Would I key in a database? So those are the keywords that I want you to write at the end of your abstract, so that people can key in those words and get your paper. Basically, that's how it is. So I'm not going to read a lot of these things. So this is the structured abstract I was talking about, the one on the left. This is structured. So background a little bit, methods a little bit, results, and then the conclusion. The one on the right is what we call unstructured. So this unstructured one is where all this is collapsed into one, but then when reading through, you will just know that here I'm talking about this, here I'm talking about this, here I'm talking about this. So this is the difference between structured and unstructured abstract. Okay. Then after that, now we have the introduction. So the introduction is like the launching pad. And I want now to pause here and ask you something. If today you met a lady, you've known this lady for some time, maybe let's say a year or 3 years, and now you've decided, hey, I want to introduce this lady to my family members because I want to settle down and live with them. What questions or what information do you think you are going to give to your family members, and what questions do you think they will ask before you get it? This is like an introduction. So I just want us to get it from the social context first before we bring it to this paper, because then it will make us understand certain things. You are going to introduce this person to you, to your parents, a lady or a man. So you are a lady, you have known a gentleman for a long time. You are saying, let me go and introduce you to my parents or my people. What information do you give these people that you are introducing this person to, because you are the one who knows them? And what questions do you think they can ask? Anybody can go. Social context. Yes. Yes, Chimonso.
Okay, sir.
Good morning again. I had a question on the keywords. Nicholas.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I had a question on the keywords. Some channels insist that the keyword should not be in the title. The keyword should not appear in the title. What's your take?
My take is that when this paper is going to be indexed in a database, or it's going to be collated into maybe an indexing database, the title will go with it automatically. So those journals will always reason that if you already have the word in the title, you are limiting the chances of using other words, mostly from the abstract and picked from other parts of the paper, to enhance the visibility of your paper. So they will tell you that the title will come automatically. So if the word is in the title, we will always give you a chance to use other words that will enhance the visibility of your paper, but avoid those other in the title. Some will allow you, but then even me, my advice is that if it's already in the title, just try to use other words, avoid it. Now I want to give Chimonso, I think she has something to say. Yes, go ahead. That name is a bit difficult to pronounce, but I think I'll pronounce it right.
So it's Chinomso.
Chinomso, yes.
Yes, please. Please, sir, can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
I'm saying, because we are now going to the introduction part of the manuscript, and I'm asking, you have known a man or you have known a lady for some time. You're the one who has known this person, and you've made a decision that you now want to introduce them to your people. What information are you going to give to your people? Because you are the one, these people do not know this person. You are the one who knows this man, and you've decided you want to settle down with them, and you say, let's go for an introduction. What information do you want to give your people about this person that you know, whom they don't know? And what questions do you think they can ask?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. So let me use a lady. If you're introducing a lady for the first time to your parents, First, meeting them after the greetings. The next thing is you tell them her name, where she's from. Your parents could go ahead to ask you where did you meet her or how did you guys meet. But first, you tell them her name, where she's from, and at times what she does.
Yeah, that's important. What's her name? What does she do for a living? How did you meet? Why have you made a decision to live with them? Because we don't know how much you are introducing them. So yes, that's important. Any other person also wants to give their opinion on this? Hello, anybody? Some people are too quiet here. These introductions are important because then I will remember your name. So tomorrow you write me an email and I will say, I don't know you. Okay, good morning.
My name is Briggs Elizabeth.
Yes, Elizabeth.
Okay, and just to add to what the other lady said, and when you're introducing a lady to your parents for the first time, they also want to know her tribe, where she's from, the community she's from, her people, and most times what she does. Sometimes they will ask you, just like she said, how did you people meet? Where did you people meet? What do you like about her that you want to settle down with her?
Thank you. So I think the bottom line from what both of you have said is we want a background to, how did we even get here? How did we arrive at this place? How did we get to a point where you will now want to live with this person? Or how did you get to a point where you know this person enough to want to settle with them? Now, the other question I also would want to ask, and I want a different person also to, let's say today, let's assume this was a physical training and I get into class. So we had a training yesterday, then we left. And yesterday I didn't talk about going anywhere on a trip. And then today I come into class and tell you, hey guys, there's a bus out there. I want everyone to get into the bus. We are going to town. What questions will you ask me? There's a bus out there. I want us to get into the bus, and then we are going to town. I didn't tell you anything. I just walked into the room and told you that. What questions will you ask?
What are we going to do in town?
What are we going to do in town? Where exactly are we going?
Where are we, and what are we going to do there? Why did you choose the place that you want us to go to?
Why did you choose that place without even contacting us? For how long are we going to be there? Is the driver competent enough? Where did you get this bus from? Why did you not tell us about this yesterday? Because I didn't come in shoes that are for going to town. I just thought we were going to sit in this hall the whole day, and then I get into my car and go home. Now look at the way I am. Do you want me to go to town like this? You didn't prepare me enough. So I'm bringing all this so that we get to understand how important an introductory part of your manuscript is. So all this information that you are giving me is what you need to give when you are introducing your paper. Okay? I know that during this time, people use different AI tools, some for writing, some for reading, some for summarizing. But at the end of the day, even whatever AI writes for you, make sure it introduces whatever topic or whatever information we are writing in a way that provides all that information you've given me. A little bit of a background. How did we get to where we are? So you are publishing a paper because you have certain results that you are presenting to us. How did we even get to a point where you thought of conducting research? How did we get to a point where you got to a point where you thought there was a need for you to collect this data, synthesize it, and publish it? So a little bit of a background. Where did we get to where we are today? So give us a background so that we get to understand, okay, food insecurity is a challenge in the globe. Give us some statistics and bring it down to say, in Africa, for example, 25% of the children are malnourished because of this and that. And then you come back and say, if you're writing about Nigeria, you would say, the statistics in Nigeria is even worrying because according to ABCD, 1 out of every 3 children is malnourished. And now you come down to the specific area where your research was conducted, you say, in Luceno village, for example. So you see how you are now, so that we get a background. Okay. So this is how we came from here to here, and that's now where we saw the gap. Then you say, despite the fact that research has been done on this, and this, there's quite a bit of data missing regarding ABCD. Hence, the reason for this research. This research was conducted in this location using this methodology in order to get this and that, and the results of this can help do that and that. So from the background, it's very clear to us the background information, where did we come from and how did we get ourselves into where we are right now? What was the knowledge gap? What was the actual problem? What is the justification for this research? How will it solve the problem? What is known and what is still not known? So basically, that is what goes into the introduction, including sometimes even the scope of what the scope. You can define the scope sometimes by just writing in the background that the scope of this. So this study covered, this study only focused on expectant mothers. We know that lactating mothers could have reported different results. However, from research, we appreciate that lactating mothers could have reported different results or could have yielded different results. However, this research did not interview lactating mothers. However, it only focused on expectant mothers, for example. So that also delimits and gives us an idea, so that when we are reading your work, we will not ask you, why did you not talk about expectant mothers? You've already told us that. I know that expectant mothers could have given me different results. So that also demonstrates that you've read and you understand. Please mute. There are people who are not muted, and it's really interfering. And I think
Excuse
that was
me, Dr.
Yes.
I have a request to make on behalf of somebody.
Yes.
What you are teaching us is very, very important, Dr. But there is someone here requesting that you kindly slow down. And I think I'm also adding to that voice. Kindly. I know you speak very fast, but sometimes it can be hard to hear your words. Thank you.
Okay. That is taken into consideration. So what I was saying is, when you are doing an introduction, and it's part of what I think we have talked about, even the people who are adding their voice to what we were talking about, is the introduction gives us an idea of where did we come from and how did we find ourselves here. So in the introduction, yes, Peter.
Okay, sorry to interject here. In some papers or journals, they require you put whether you used objectives or research questions. Is it okay always to include them, or in the part of introduction, just as you have included the scope? That it, for example, it answers the following two questions, or it is answering the following objectives, or it is guided by the following objectives.
It's a good practice. If you use research questions, it's always good practice to mention that clearly towards the end of the introduction. Would say this research was based on the following two research objectives, or this research was based on the following objectives. So you would say objective one. You can put them in Roman numbers, or you would just narrate and say the main objectives of this study was to do this and that, and to determine this and that, or to examine this and that, and to compare this and that. So it's always a good thing towards the end to include, whether you used objectives or research questions. It's always a good idea to put them there. But there are some journals that will tell you that in our journal, you don't put those ones within the introduction. You have to put it elsewhere. Maybe at the end of the introduction just stays on its own, and then you have a specific section where you are talking about the research objectives and research questions, whichever you used. So that can also depend on the journal, but most of the time, it's always a good practice to, in your introduction, talk about the main objectives of your paper in the introduction, or if it was based on certain research questions, then you need to say that. Now I want to talk about, I think I've given a background of what goes into the introduction, so it will not be a lot of talking, because most of it has already been talked about, okay? So the introduction actually brings into the topic into focus. It brings out the importance of this, the topic. It brings out also the background, and it also gives us a bit of an arrangement of, how the rest of the paper will look like. Because when I read this, I will, from the introduction, already have an idea of what to expect. So if in the introduction, I know that I'm expecting information about the impact of a specific treatment, or a specific intervention on a certain group of people, for example, or a certain group of animals, then I have an idea of what then that should look like. So if it's about correlation and regression analysis was conducted, you need to introduce that so that we know, okay, so this was done using key informant interview guides, or this was done using FGDs, or an experiment was set up. I know you are going to give more details about the actual thing, how the actual data collection was done in the methodology section. But then in the introduction, you also need to give us a hint so that we understand the paper in totality. And that's why, as we go along with this, you will realize that I will tell you that this is not the place to start with. So I will always tell people, don't start by writing the introduction. I will tell you where to start as you come towards the introduction. The introduction should be written towards the end, because then this is where you are going to read through your papers and say, okay, I have read through the paper. I think I now can construct a very nice introduction that can introduce the entire paper and everything that is in this paper. Because when you start by writing the introduction, at the end of writing the paper, you might end up reading back to your introduction and saying, okay, I think this introduction does not introduce what is in this paper. It totally does not. And then you now start writing it again. So, yes. So basically, I think I've talked about all these things. So it's the structure of the paper. So it also talks about the knowledge gap, the research questions that were there, the significance of the study, the objectives, for example, if the objectives are there. So the main objective of the study was to do this and that, or the main key questions, research questions that were addressed in this paper were this and that. So you find a way of putting them within your introduction. I think I've talked about writing the introduction, where it's an important structuring mechanism. It announces the topic. It also talks about the motivation to undertake the study. So you will give us the knowledge gap and research gap that still exists, that motivated you to do the study even in the first place. Then also it points out most important findings in the published literature. So in the introduction is where you are going to tell us so and so has done this, or this has been done already, this has been done already. However, this is still missing, because when you're demonstrating the research gap or the knowledge gap, you demonstrate it against whatever is already out there so that we appreciate. Okay. Sometimes you also do a research problem and hypothesis and a review of the following chapters. Now, do not write this first. So I always tell people, do not start by writing the introduction. People tell me, Nicholas, this is the first part of the paper. Why should I not start by writing it? It will kick you into procrastination will start kicking in, because it's a very difficult part to write. It's one of the most difficult parts of a paper to write, because this is where you are going to think through. Imagine you are going to think through, how then do I bring a background that will be like a launching pad to my results? How do I bring out a background that will, demonstrate why I chose these specific methods? How do I bring out an introduction that will give a good grounding for the interpretation and the discussion part of my research? Until you've done all those things, it will be difficult for you to know what should go into a good introduction for your specific paper. So I always tell people, write a good chunk of your paper so that when you read through, you realize, hey, I have written all these. I've written the introduction, and I've written the methodology part, I've written the results, and I've written the discussion, I've even written a conclusion. How best can I now introduce all these things in a way that makes sense? Okay, so I will not read again this word by word. You still will read it. I don't have to read it word by word, because when this is shared, you still read, but it's just basically what I was talking about. Okay. Describe your research objectives clearly and simply if you want your readers to be interested in your research solutions. The introduction is your opportunity to explain and define your work, putting it into context. This is where to explain why your particular research problem is distinctive. The introduction must include a clear statement of your hypothesis, a prophetic statement based on current theory, which states that what you expect the experiment to reveal. Your introduction should include a literature review, which provides a general background information about what has already been published in your area, in your research area. So as I said, this is the background. You can't just talk to us about a specific village or a certain technology, the level of adoption or the perception and the perception of a specific people about a specific intervention, without giving us a background of how did we get to where we are. So that's where literature is important. So the summary: convince your reader, your readers, your work is important. provide enough background information to allow readers to understand and evaluate results without reference to previous publications on the topic. Now, I want, when I read your introduction, when I now see your results and discussion, I don't have to look for other papers to make me understand why you did the interpretation the way you did the interpretation. I will go back to your introduction and say, okay, I'm looking at the background. I'm seeing how this person is bringing us to where we are right now, what has been done at a global level, what is the extent of this problem at the global level, at the regional level, for example, at the country level, and now at the local level where he's working. Whatever is known, whatever is not known, the justification for the study, the methods that he chose, a summary of it a little bit, and maybe the main objectives of this or the research questions that they were asking themselves at the time they were conducting this research. That will be very easy for me now to follow your work. But if that is not there, then it becomes very difficult. Okay? Provide rationale for the study, state briefly and clearly why you wrote the paper, all these things. Now, how do we do this? We need to start broadly within your field. So start broadly within your field, putting your topic into a wider context in order to orient your reader. And then you should quickly and briefly focus on your specific research problem. Okay? So when you're writing the objective, the introduction, and you will see when we talk about discussion, it will be the opposite. The discussion, we are now going to, so the introduction looks like a funnel where we start broadly within our field. So let's say I'm talking about, in my field, let me give an example where I'm talking about the use of black soldier fly in the formulation of fish feeds. So I formulated feeds using black soldier fly as an alternative source of protein in fish feed formulation. So I formulated feeds, I fed my fish, and then I collected data. But then the problem I'm trying to solve is the problem of over-reliance on fish meal as a source of protein in animal feed production or feed formulation. I cannot just go ahead and start talking about black soldier fly directly like that. I need to give a context. So if I'm talking about fish feed as the main, the over-reliance on fish meal, then I need to start talking about fish feeds as a broader perspective, where fish feed contribute to like 70 or 80% of the cost of running aquaculture enterprises, over reliance of fish meal, and then I come down to why we need alternative sources, and then I come down to BSF. I little bit talk about the BSF, what has been done with BSF, what is still not known, all those things. So start broadly, and then you quickly focus on your area. Okay. It should provide adequate information about your research area so that readers do not need to refer to other materials to understand, to understand your work. Now, it forms the launching pad of the paper, and the writer should start with a hook to interest the reader. So if I'm writing about teenage pregnancy, for example, or I'm writing about this research you are doing on let's say there's a research we are doing on the growth parameters of a specific fish, we need to start with a hook, something that is very interesting. And most of the time, we start with a hook that is a bit of, within your field, you know what is the trending topic and what is it that when people read, start with your introduction, they will say, okay, I think this is interesting. I find this interesting. So look for a hook that can start your launching pad. After we are done with so when we share, you can go and watch some of these things. I'm not going to watch them here, but then they are on YouTube. You can watch how to read a paper effectively, how to get information. So these ones you can always read. You can always watch writing introduction. There's a very nice video where they are talking about guiding you on how then you can write a compelling introduction for your work. Then after the introduction now, after the introduction, depending on the way the paper is structured, we are now going to talk about the materials and methods. And now, what is the difference between methodology and materials and methods? Anybody wants to give their opinion? If somebody says the methodology and somebody talks about materials and methods, what is the difference? Hello? Anybody wants to give their opinion? Hello?
Good morning. This is Moses
Good morning,
John
John.
from Macquarie University.
Yes.
Department of Social Work. The methodology is an encapsulation of the logical flow, how you move from your ontology, epistemology, and etiology into a way of investigating your realities that you have identified as what your reality is. The materials and methods as the actual operationalization of that logical flow. So, for instance, if you say that I started off from naturalist perspective, and I decided that nature is the reality has to be qualitative. Then, when you come to the materials and methods, then you operationalize that. You start saying that now I'm going to use maybe a narrative, a storytelling, or focus group discussion to talk about how you're going to do your guide. So really, the methodology is an encompassing. It talks about your flow, your logic, how you move from your understanding of the world, the reality, and how you're going to move down into how you're going to investigate that reality, and maybe qualified or quantified. And then the materials and methods are just the tools, the actual tools you're going to use for your research. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not adding anything to that explanation. So methodology is a general idea of, generally, it's basically the approach. So what approach did you take? So that is the general methodology. So that is the approach that you took. But then now when talking about materials and methods is how then did I actualize this approach? So let's say if it was an experiment that I conducted, what did I do? What amount of each of these chemicals, for example, or how many animals did I inspect, all those things, or if I'm doing a cross-sectional study or a longitudinal study, how many households did I include? What were the interventions, for example? So basically that's it. So the materials and methods section of your paper now talks about it enables your readers to repeat your work for verification. So this is the cornerstone of science. Repeatability or replicability is the cornerstone of science. So if I read through your materials and methods section and I don't understand how then if somebody is given the same resources like you had, if I feel like even if somebody is given the same resources, they cannot repeat your work because you didn't give enough details, then I will just say, yeah, okay, I have seen what you have written, but I doubt if somebody is given the same materials or the same resources, they can be able to repeat your work. So I don't think this paper is good enough to be published. The other thing is also, people will judge the results based on the methods. Okay, so people will look at your results and ask themselves whether the methods you told us could be able to give you the results you are reporting. So that is why we are saying this is very important. Okay, this is very important because if you told us that you collected data using a certain methodology, or you conducted a specific experiment and collected a specific set of data or a specific data set, and then that is what you are telling us in the methodology. And then you go to the results section, and I see you reporting things that could not have been obtained out of the methods that you described, then I will just start doubting those results straight away. So that's why it's important. Okay. Here we need to give sufficient details need to be given here. So we need to give sufficient details for regularities and also repeatability. So we should be able, if somebody has the same resources like you had as at the time you were doing your research, then they should be able to repeat your work. So you need to consider leadership and their knowledge carefully to give details accordingly. What happens is, sometimes as a researcher, you are too close to your work and you assume certain things, you assume certain details. You feel like I don't need to explain why I digested this, or I don't need to explain why I dried this material before I put it in the oven, or I dried it outside in the sun, or I removed the shell before I put it in the oven. You need to explain all these details so that it's clearer. If somebody wants to repeat your work, they know the rationale behind every single method that you used. Here, I'm not going to talk about all these things, but then the best practices here is clarity and precision, logical flow, sufficient detail, and citations in certain cases. So when you are doing methodology, your results, your materials and method section, sometimes you say analysis were done according to, let's say, APA 2015, or was done according to Outa et al. 2017. So sometimes, if these are protocols that are recognized within your field, then you don't have to go and start saying 25% of sulfuric acid was dissolved in 20% of water. It was left to stay for three days. No, you just cite the protocol, and somebody will go back. So in sometimes, there are areas where you need to talk even about the experimental design. What was the experimental design like? What procedures? Sometimes even statistical analysis, the sample size, reagents and equipment that were used, so that somebody can repeat your work. Okay, you need to know that methods, as I have talked about, methods are closely scrutinized in peer review. And if a reviewer doubts that the experiments are repeatable, the manuscript will be rejected no matter how wonderful the results are. So be careful the details. Your reputation as a researcher is on the line. So this is where you go to the instruction to authors section that often provides guidance. So always check. Sometimes they tell you the details they want. So if they want the sample size, for example, the rationale behind the choices of the methods you used. If you sampled people, if you did your research in a specific area, what is it that the rationale for choosing that? All these others I will not talk about. These are things that we will read through. So let's say we are talking about mixed research method, for example, talk about data collection, qualitative and quantitative, data integration, building analysis, interpretation, all these things, ethical considerations. Talk about the research design, qualitative, quantitative. Like when you're doing a mixed method, we have qualitative or quantitative data. How was each of them collected? Did we collect them using structured questionnaires? How many questionnaires were administered? How were the questionnaires actually administered? If you did focus group discussions, what were the compositions of these focus group discussions? And how were they organized? How were they conducted? How were the recordings transcribed? All these things. So give as much detail as possible. So here you need to be meticulous. If you cannot be trusted in simple things, can you expect the reader to trust you in significant and complex ones, like the results you are just about to present to us? So if I cannot be able to trust the methods, it will be very difficult for me to trust the results, because I will say, I did see how you came up with the results you're giving us. Your methods are not showing how these results were arrived at. Did you pick these results from the streets? Okay. Check. Can a colleague repeat the experiment based on the description given? The writer is often too close to the method and omits details glaringly obvious to him or her. And do not mix this in the results section, because that is where we are going. So sometimes you find people reporting the results, but they're describing the methods in the results. Now, okay? So sometimes, depending on the kind of study you are doing, sometimes you are supposed to describe the study site, the study species, the materials, the data processing analysis. Sometimes you need to give georeferences, coordinates, sometimes even maps or information on habitat, sampling sites, and all these things, and give the rationale. So if you did your research around a specific wetland, for example, why did you choose that specific wetland over all other wetlands in the world? For example, if you have a map, so that your reader gets an orientation of, where is this located and all those things. So these are things that you need to think about as a reader. We will take a 10-minute break. When we come back, we will now start, we will go to the results directly. So we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll take a 10-minute break, and then we will come back to start from where we have stopped. So Kevina, just guide us, at what exact time are we coming back?
Thank you so much, Dr. Nicholas. So whatever time zone you're in, just be sure to return in 10 minutes. Even East African time, it's going to be around 11:13. So you have a bit of time to take a stretch or grab a cup of tea or coffee. And again, if you haven't done so, I have attached an attendance list in the chat. So be sure to write your name as you'd like to appear in the certificate. Thank you.
Is included in the reference list. And here I want to ask, how many people are using reference managers? Just write the name of the reference manager you are using. If you are still doing manual referencing, just write manual. If you are using a reference manager, write the name of the reference manager so that I know. Because in this time and age, I would not expect you to still be doing manual referencing. That one you are being unfair to yourself, and you are making writing very difficult and cumbersome. So if you have never learned how to use any reference manager, this is a sign that you need to go and learn how to use a reference manager, so that when you write, this reference manager helps you with citation automatically. So you don't have to go through the pain of writing. Then you now start again following through your document, looking at, okay, I included this. What are the details? Page number, then author's name, all those things. No. So you need to, if you're not using any reference management tool, there are very many out here. Learn how to use them. Just go on YouTube. You'll find very nice reference managers. I have used Mendeley and Zotero, but Mendeley is the best one for me. I've used Mendeley since 2012, and it has served me so well that when I try to go to Zotero, and I just keep going back to Mendeley. So learn how to use. If you're still doing manual, you are being unfair to yourself. Learn how to use a reference manager. You know which one will work for you. So just try. Go on YouTube. You'll find some of these reference managers there. I will not talk about all these things because there's a place we are going to talk about them. So journal selection, we have written our paper. We are looking for the journal where to publish it. So somebody would say, Nicholas, I have a very good paper, but I don't know where to publish it. These days, there are what we call journal finders. Most of these publishers have their own journal finders, and I will stop sharing this, and I will share with you something here. Let me just look for, there's something I want to share, and I want to look for a manuscript here. I want to run through a manuscript before I show you what I want to show you. Okay, here it is. No, I just want to show you a manuscript so that before it is published or before it is submitted, because I know somebody would say, I don't know, I've just been hearing the word manuscript, you've been talking about it. I don't know what that thing is. I just want to show you. I'm looking for a raw manuscript that has not been published, so that you see what it looks like. Some people think that sometimes this manuscript, we send them when they're already structured the way the papers always come out. No, I just want to show you here that these manuscripts are just normal papers. You just write in plain text and then you send it. It's up to the journal now to structure it the way they want. I'm just showing you one of my papers that I published already out of my PhD work. And yeah, so this was the manuscript. So the manuscript has the title, as you can see here. Then it has the names of the authors. And these days, you must provide an OCID ID for most journals. We will talk about what OCID is. But that is the next thing we are talking about. But then you have the title, we have the names of the authors, including their OCID, and then we have their affiliations. So this is what we are talking about as addresses. Then we have the corresponding author's email address. And then now, this is what this journal required. So it required that you have this as the first page, and then now you come again here to repeat it. Then so the title, the abstract, you see I have asterisks here for the first author or the corresponding author. Then all this, their affiliations, then the author, then I have the abstract here, then we have the keywords, then the introduction. You see I started globally, introduction. After the introduction, then I've gone ahead now to write the materials and methods. After the materials and methods here, I've gone ahead to talk about the experimental NFT aquaponic system, described what it was, I've given a picture, the Arden ponds, what were they like, water quality parameters, all these things, all the equations, then that analysis, how I did it, then the results, the main results here, I have some presented in tables. most of them presented in tables, but I also have some presented in figures like I see here. Growth parameters, the final leaf length, the final length height, chlorophyll A, growth rates, all these yields, fish yield, and then I now have the discussion here. After the discussion, I have now the conclusions and recommendations, and then the acknowledgement, and then author contribution statement. So each author, what was their contribution? Conflict of interest. Here, there's no conflict of interest. The author's ethical statement, data availability, and then we have the references. So basically, that is what a manuscript looks like for those who I would ask, what does it look like? So it's just a plain paper that has all those sections. Then you send it to the journal. You wait for the reviewers to give you comments. Then you work on those comments, and then you give it back to the journal. The journal then decides whether they want to publish that paper or they don't want to publish it based on reasons that they will give you. Now, I want to talk about reference manager before I talk about something, because we want to transition to the last part of this training. Not reference manager, but I want to talk about journal selection. There is what we call predatory publishing. Predatory journals are journals that do not adhere to the conduct of the ethics of publishing. So these are journals that are in this for the business. They are here for, of course, it's controversial. I hope nobody will misquote me. But the truth is the publishing industry is a business. So that's why you are charged for your paper to be published, even though you are the one who did all these things. So predatory journals, I'm just talking, yeah. So I'll talk about predatory journals before I talk about journal selection. So predatory journals appeared around 2008, and they charge authors article processing fee. I want to make it clear that there are journals that are not predatory, but they still charge APC. So article processing charges is normal in the publishing industry. As I say, this is a business. So I'm not saying that one of the criteria that you can use to identify a predatory journal is the fact that it charges article processing charges. No, it could charge article processing fee, but it's still not a predatory journal. Now, some predatory journals will not even declare how much they are charging you. They will tell you, just submit your paper. Once the paper is accepted, then we'll tell you how much to pay. You know that you are dealing. Why are you hiding? Yeah. Why don't you just, maybe just document it and present it on your website? That is clear how much you're charging. Okay. They also abuse the open access system, and sometimes they just charge you and they don't even do review. So you submit a paper in the morning. In the evening, you receive an email telling you that your paper has been accepted for publishing. Or you find they have just corrected English here and there. There is no content that has been challenged, or they have not given you anything about your content. So you need to start thinking, am I really dealing with a genuine manuscript? Not manuscript, but journal. So these are some of the criteria, or these are some of the features. How do I identify predatory journals? One, the lack of peer review. So predatory journals often claim peer review but do not conduct genuine evaluations. So they will tell you that they do peer review, but then when they give you back your manuscript, they just accepted it without doing anything. Nobody asked you about the methodology you chose, your data analysis. Nobody challenged your interpretation of results. Nobody asked you any questions. So that's a problem. Then there's what we call aggressive solicitation. I know some of you have received a lot of emails from journals that you don't even know, asking you. I receive 1 million of them. So this aggressive solicitation is also a sign that this is a predatory journal, because they are trying out there to reach as many customers or as many clients as possible so that they can make as much money out of this as possible. Then there's a high publication fee. Some of them charge very high. Some of them charge very low monies, because they are telling you, we are charging you $50, and then this paper will be out in 2 weeks. Then you take it to your school and you are told you've wasted that data. We are not recognizing that as a publication because this is predatory. So you've lost a lot. Then some of them also have misleading metrics. So they give false information about impact factor. They also give false information about the databases where their work is indexed. So they tell you we are indexed in Scopus. Then you go and search on Scopus, or you go and search on Web of Science, and you find their names are not there. So they're just lying to you. and there's poor quality control. So sometimes you find their published papers and you look through that paper and realize there were so many mistakes that fell through the cracks. And you say, if somebody had looked at this with a keen eye, this is a mistake that should not have passed, should not have slipped past their attention. So these are things you also look out for when you are selecting a journal. When we share this, you can always go to some of these databases and just see which journals are there. How do I identify and avoid predatory journals? I think we talked about this already. Check journal website, look at the editorial board information. Who are the editorial board members? Are they active researchers? Just Google one of them. And if you find there are people who do not even exist, then you know you're dealing with a predatory journal. Look at the peer review process. Do they do actual peer review, or do they just take papers and accept without anything? Then publication ethics, there's a lot that goes into this. It's a nuanced statement there. Read published articles. So you need to really go into download some of the papers they are published and read. What is the quality? What does it look like, for example? Consult established people as well. So you can also establish lists like, for example, AJOL. So that is African Journals Online. You can also look at DOAJ, which is Directory of Open Access Journals. If you know those that are indexed under PubMed, for example, or indexed under any of this, be sure if they are there or not. I've talked about evaluating editorial board. Are these recognized experts? So if you find the editorial board is full of professors, so just go and Google the name of that professor and see if they are really in that field. You find they have written a name of somebody who does not even exist, or someone who is not even doing research. And also legitimate affiliations. So sometimes you find you're told this professor comes from this university, and then you Google and realize he does not come from that university. So maybe he exists, but it's not from that specific university. So those could be the potential red flags. Be wary of unsolicited invitations. I've talked about these unsolicited emails and all these things that these people talk about. Submissions these days are electronic. There were times when people would submit hard copies. Those days are gone. So these days you find most journals have a system where you are guided on how to get to a point where you can now electronically submit your paper. And that paper now goes through the process. Then the other thing is now about how then do I select the right journal? This is submission. Those ones are not a problem. How then do I select the right journal for my paper? That is the next thing that somebody would ask. I have a paper. I don't know where to publish it. Most journals these days have what we call journal finders, and I just want to show you how to get a journal finder where you can get a journal to publish your work. So we'll just go on to Google. Then we just type the word journal finders. So you see all these publishers have journal finders. Elsevier has, MDPI has, Springer has, Wiley, Scopus, all this. So let's say we want to publish our paper in Elsevier or in Springer. So let's say in Elsevier, I want a journal within Elsevier that is relevant to my work. I just click on Elsevier Journal Finder. Then what happens in this case here is that when it opens, then I just look at the fields that are there. So they want me to do what? You can match by abstract. So I just go back here, copy my abstract. And just come back here and copy my abstract. Copy my abstract. Then put it here. Then you click Find Journals. It's going to recommend a lot of journals for me based on the strength. Okay. So these are journals that are relevant to my research, but then I realize I'm talking about aquaculture, and I'm not seeing really, it's not matching so well. So what I'll do, I'll go and check if there is a publisher another publisher that I think can give me better results. So I'll just go back to Journal Finders. Let's see if Springer. So let's see Wiley and Wiley, let's say, or maybe Taylor and Francis. Let's see Taylor and Francis, for example. What do they have? Do they have journals that I think, or MDPI? So let's say, so let's copy and paste here. Abstract. No, I'll paste my abstract here. Paste the abstract. Then you reveal suggested journals here. So it's going to, please, Lucy, mute yourself. Now that we have, so you see, Journal of Applied Aquaculture, International Journal of Vegetable Science, International, all this. So let's say this is the first one. So then you look at this, and you can now get the metrics from here. Look at the impact factor, the site score, all this. And then you see submission to first decision is 57 days. Acceptance rate is 17%. So I have a bit of a challenge with this kind of a journal, because then if the chances of my paper being published is 17 out of every 100 papers that I submitted, then I'm a bit skeptical, so I don't want to go there. Then I check this other one also, 24%. So this one can give you an idea. This Journal Finders give you an idea of which paper, where you can take your paper. So then, this one gives you an idea, okay, 21%. So you can choose one. So let's say we have chosen this one as the one that we like, Journal of Applied Aquaculture. Then you just click on it and just check it out. Check out instruction for authors, the aim and scope of this paper, so that you see editorial board, instruction for authors. Instructions for authors is what gives you an idea of how you need to prepare your paper. So Journal Finders will help you. The other way through which you can decide on a journal to publish your paper is also by looking at the papers that you cited when you are writing this work. When you are writing this work, you cited certain papers. So these papers were published in certain journals, and those journals have the potential to publish for you because they're related to your work. So then I want to go to the last part of this before I switch gears. There's something I want to show you here before I switch gears to another aspect of scientific writing and publishing here. Just the last aspect before we switch gears. Now, what are the steps in these challenges? What are the steps in organizing your manuscript? People can ask step by step, how do I organize myself in the preparation of my manuscript? So the first thing is prepare figures and tables and even give them captions. I always tell people, you don't want to stop in the middle of your writing. Your discussion is flowing very nicely. And then you want to now stop and generate a figure, or you want to now stop and do a table. That's a waste of your time. I would want you to prepare figures and tables and even give them captions and just have them in some document somewhere before you start using them, before you even sit down to start writing, because moving back and forth trying to write to prepare figures and tables will derail you. Then after preparing figures and tables, write the methods. How did you collect this data? What methodologies did you use? All this. Then write the results. So prepare figures and tables, write the methods, write the results, write the discussion. Okay? Then write a clear conclusion, then write a compelling introduction. Okay? What is the problem to be solved? Are there any existing solutions? Which one are the best? Which is the main limitation? What do you hope to achieve? Then after that, write the abstract, compose concise and descriptive title, select keywords for indexing, write the acknowledgement, and write up the references. Prepare figures and tables, including captions. Write the methods, write up the results, then write the discussion. Write a clear conclusion. Then after all that, introduce all those things that you have written already by writing a compelling introduction. Then write an abstract, because then it's a summary of everything. Then compose a concise and descriptive title. select keywords for indexing, write the acknowledgements and other sections. You remember that other sections, some journals will require you to declare it conflict of interest and all those things. Write those ones later. Then write up the results section. Now this one will help you so that you don't have to go back and forth, all these things. That will be the easiest thing. Now that we have written our paper, now that we have even submitted our paper, is there anything else we need to understand within the publishing industry? But before we get there, I want us to spend the next 4 minutes. If somebody has a question or if there's clarification they need, this is the time. And at this time, I'm not answering all the questions myself. We are all here. We have different experiences. So any comment, it does not even have to be a question. It could be a comment or a feedback. Give it now, especially regarding the scientific writing and publishing. Before we get to the last section of the training, where I will be talking about other aspects in the area of scientific writing and communication, the emerging trends and other aspects that we need to know, like research visibility. How do you make your research visible? You have published your paper. How do you make it visible? How can that work for you? How can that help you? I want at this time to ask people to give their comments, questions if they have, and these questions will be answered by all of us. Thank you. I'm giving you the next few minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Well, please, sir, I want to ask for a first timer that wants to write and publish things. How do you actually come up with topics? Yes, let me say, as a first timer, how do I want to start writing? How do I come up with topics or titles? How do I actually come up with a research work?
You know, at the point where you now want to publish a paper, you are publishing because you have results, right? Just stay with me. Chimonso, I want us to have a conversation here so that I get to answer you, So are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
So as at the time you are deciding now, I want to publish a paper, it means you have results, right? Because you cannot be publishing if you don't have any results to publish, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So it means either you've gone to the field, collected data, or you've done what we call desktop research, which means you have gone into what has been published, you've extracted information, and you are now saying, this is a result of my desktop research, or this is as a result of what I collected in the field or in the lab. So you have results. Let's start from there. Now, the title of the paper will depend on the kind of results you want to present to us. So if it's about you collected data on the effect of something or effect of a specific drug on pain management or among cancer patients, for example. So the title will come from the problem you are solving and from the data that you have collected. So that is how you come up with the title. Otherwise, you will not really need to publish if you didn't have any results to give us. So titles will come from the results that you want to publish. Yes, Justice.
Just a follow-up to the very last question.
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes compelling topics, add to the weight or acceptability of a paper. So I think that's what she's asking. How can one craft, a compelling topic? Then secondly, for those of us who had fallen victim of publishing in predatory journals, is it possible to withdraw such, if they are quality papers, is it possible to withdraw such articles from such predatory journals and republish them in a more acceptable international journal?
Okay. I don't know whether somebody wants to give their voice. You are asking, you've published a paper and you realize, hey, I think I dealt with the predatory journal. Is it possible for me to withdraw it and submit it somewhere else? And you remember, in publishing, you only publish one paper, you only submit a paper to one journal at a time and wait for the outcome. You cannot submit your paper to 7 journals and say, okay, any of them that accepts, I will publish with them. No, one journal at a time. That is the rule. So anybody wants to give their feedback on that?
Sir, I think I've had an encounter with that before. There was a time I sent a manuscript to a journal, and I think it was just waiting for well, before 24 hours it was approved. So when I reported back to my supervisor, she said, no, that's not a good journal. That is not supposed to be like that. There was no peer review, there was no corrections and all that. That is, I should write a letter to them and tell them that I will not be continuing with the publication. So that was exactly what I did. So they wanted to know my reasons, but I told them that I wasn't ready for it now. And when I'm ready, I will let them know. And they replied me and told me that I should let them know whenever I was ready. And that was just how we concluded it. So I was able to now publish my manuscript somewhere else. So I think you can write them a letter and tell them that you won't be able to continue with them.
Thank you for saying that. But then what's the case where this paper is already published? And because some of them will go ahead and publish and tell you your paper is already online. So this paper is already published. And ideally, in scientific publishing, there is a chance for you to withdraw paper, even when it's already published. If you have a genuine reason, you can tell them, withdraw that paper for reasons A, B, C, D. A good journal will do that. But some predatory journals, you can write emails, then they refuse to withdraw. They will just tell you you're not withdrawing that paper. We published it. Then you shall have lost because there's nothing much you can do. If you submit it to another journal, they will tell you this paper is already online. It has been published already in this journal, so we are not publishing it. So that's why you need to be careful even as you try to go around these journals. But what you need to do is you must send them an email so that you have an evidence that I tried to withdraw. So don't just say, okay, I'll count my losses. No, just say, I tried to withdraw. I gave them very genuine reasons why I needed that paper withdrawn. They refused to withdraw it, but just know that I withdrew it. So even if somebody reads that paper with your name and it's not withdrawn, you'll tell them, yeah, I have an email to the effect that I wanted to withdraw that paper. It's only that they refused. So if you feel you published a paper and that journal is not very good for you and you want to withdraw, write them an email. That is your responsibility as a researcher. So if they refuse, that's their problem. But then you have tried to write. I will allow Aluel to say something. He has a black hand raised, and then I will give someone else.
Yeah, mine was a question. I'm not contributing, if that's okay, if I can move on.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I think for me, there has been, it could be fear based on a lot of assumptions. And this is why I really wanted to attend this, just to get some clarity. And hopefully there will be other sessions that will boost my confidence in just moving forward. So for some context where there isn't like a lot of research, for example, the gender space in South Sudan, because of conflicts and all of this, there isn't like extensive, some topics within gender don't have like extensive existing data. And I think one of my fears has been adventuring into spaces where, no data exists, and then the scrutiny that might come with like going through the process. And so I think there's just been a lot of fear. And I was wondering what would be your advice in some of these dynamics. One, you don't feel like a very confident researcher so far. You're still growing in your research journey, and you really want to venture into topics and issues that don't really have a lot of information, pre-existing information out there, and you want to initiate, research in those spaces, and just the insecurity that come with that. I think that has been one of my biggest fears, I would say, in just trying to like move the needle on my end. So I just wanted to know what advice would you have on that in terms of, just taking those steps.
Someone has to,
before I can even like reach out to like publication and have something, and
Yeah, someone has to start these things, and I think you are waiting for data. You want, you wish that someone had done something on about these topics in Southern Sudan and in South Sudan, and you could now be basing your arguments and your write-ups on their data. Unfortunately, you have to be that person. So somehow someone has to lead the trail, even if you are going to face rejection. So move forward, and you are going to, in those cases, what you do is, once you justify to us that this is all I have 2 or 3 papers that are talking about this specific topic, then you can now, base your arguments on other contexts. But you keep referring to that, okay, this is what has been published about in South Africa, this has been published in Ghana and Nigeria, but then the context could be different. But that, because I don't have a lot of data to rely on, that's why I'm relying on this data from that has been, or this information that has been published in Ghana, for example. But I know that we cannot apply them directly, looking at the context within South Sudan. So mine is to tell you, go ahead, collect data, write, and base your arguments and discussions on works that have been done elsewhere. But in the introduction, you need to demonstrate to us that not much has been done in this area, and the information that exists is on this, and this. However, there is clearly a data gap on aspects of what I want to write about. So it means that whoever is reading your work will understand why you are borrowing a lot from Kenya, or you are borrowing a lot from Egypt, or borrowing a lot from Uganda, as an example. So go ahead and do it. It might not be as hard as you think. Someone has to step into that space. And if you step into that space, the good thing with this is that people will now be referring to you, and they'll say, according to some research that was done by Aluel or Atem et al. 2015, this was the condition. So people will be building, and you might end up now inspiring other scholars now to venture into that and say, already we have 2 or 3 papers, recorded by Atem, and we are going to base our studies on that. So mine is to ask you to go ahead and just face. I always tell people, deal with problems when they show up. So go ahead, collect your data, write. If it's a review paper and you don't have information about South Sudan, say that is why I'm writing, because someone has to write. So when you meet some of these problems, handle them when they show up. Don't be afraid. Don't think about. I always tell people, don't think about tomorrow before it arrives. Mine is, I live one day at a time. If I face a problem today, I deal with it today. I don't care about what will happen tomorrow, because tomorrow will take care of itself. Yeah, I might not even reach that tomorrow. I always tell people, sometimes you eat to your satisfaction, and then you spend a sleepless night thinking about what you will eat tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes, your friend calls you and sends you $1,000. And then you ask yourself, why was I even worried about today? Why did I not even sleep? I didn't know this would happen. So you worry about things that might not happen. I'm just giving you an example, because then you are worried about the lack of information, and you are worrying about how then do I justify my study, on what basis do I conduct this research, what if researchers, or what if the reviewers tell me to give more information from South Sudan and I don't have it. Deal with it at that time. Tell them this is all I could get. So even if they go into the internet, they will realize, hey, this lady is working with very little information, and that's why they are out here trying to create information so that whoever wants to come after them have something to work with. Go ahead, deal with those challenges when they show up. That's why TCC Africa is also here. We can always, give advice. If you find very difficult things, you can always say, this is how you respond to some of these review questions. Tell them, I appreciate this, but then I just want to make it clear that I'm borrowing from other contexts. I know they don't apply directly to my context, but I don't have anything to work with. Thank you. So I will go into the next, you asked about predatory. This guy was talking about predatory. There's one part of it that I had not finished. I was saying some predatory journals will tell you will refuse to withdraw. They will tell you, once we publish, we don't withdraw. But send an email so that you have evidence that you tried to withdraw it. So that if somebody reads and tells you there was a problem here, you tell them, I noticed after publication that there were problems in that manuscript, and that's why I asked for it to be withdrawn. If it was not withdrawn, it's just unfortunate. So yeah, write an email. If they refuse, that's their problem. But if it's withdrawn, then you can now say, okay, it's withdrawn from this place. Let me work on it and then send it elsewhere. Now, I want to get to the last part, and I hope this takes less than 1 hour or 1 hour maximum. I want to try, because it's not a difficult part. It's just showing you that writing and publishing is not just about the papers that you write. There's a lot that goes into the space of scientific writing and publishing. It's not just about writing papers. It's about making yourself visible out there as a researcher, because these papers should translate into money, or they should translate into promotions, or they should translate into projects, they should translate into consultancies. Basically, people should see what you are working on. People should see what you are doing in terms of research, in terms of publications, because that is the only way they can be able to approach you for to form consortia with them, to work with them in consultancies, to do projects with them. So there's something I want to show you here. That I thought would be, if we stopped this without showing you that, then it would be a lot of injustice to you. I'll just go directly to it here. So I'm talking about now research and researcher visibility. Okay, I'm going to talk about research and researcher visibility. Why should you be visible as a researcher on the different platforms that I want to show you? So I've started by showing you the power of visibility. I always, if from here you go onto my LinkedIn profile or Facebook, but mostly LinkedIn, that's where I post most of my professional stuff. I post about aquaculture, the projects we are doing, the consultancy we are doing, and I have received several times people reaching out to me and giving me consultancies purely based on the content I post online. Now, if I had been doing research on aquaculture and publishing papers and not talking about it online, then some of these consultancies would not have come my way. This specific consultancy, this was somebody who reached out to me just based on the aquaculture things I was posting on LinkedIn. And this ended up taking me to Penang, World Fish Center, which is a place I was just dreaming as an aquaculture scientist. Going to Penang, the World Fish Center, is like going to, for lack of a better word, it's like going to Mecca. So I got the chance through this Christmas 2022, Christmas over there. It was a nice experience. I'm telling you this story so that you see that if you're doing a very good job, for those who are believers in the Bible, they say that you can light a very good candle, but if you hide it under the bed, nobody will go under your bed to see that bright candle. So you have to bring it out for people to see it. So this is what I'm telling you, that whatever you are doing, don't hide it, or don't be so, how do we say, don't be cagey about it. Let people see. So choose a platform. It depends. And not all of us, of course, are also outgoing and very comfortable with posting. But from time to time, make sure that whatever you are doing is visible. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm going to show you several things here. So I think we start by talking about H-index. And H-index is an author-level metrics that attempts to measure both the productivity and citation impact of the publications of a scientist or a scholar. So we will talk about, like in this case here, where on Google Scholar, where you have your H-index here. I have an H-index of 16, and I-10 index is where is the number of how many of all my papers have been cited at least 10 times. So 24 of my papers have been cited 10 times and above. So have a Google Scholar account, even if you don't have a paper yet, because that will push you. You will be seeing people's Google Scholar accounts, and then you say, okay, I also want to have at least 1 or 2 papers, so that if somebody asks me for a link, I'll just click and send them a link. So create a Google Scholar account. It's free. So just create an account. That is the first place you make yourself and your works visible. I will go on to each of them live to show you, but here I'm still just going through everything, and then I'll go into each platform one at a time, just to show you how to log in, how to create an account there. Then there's Web of Science. So Web of Science also gives you an idea. It also gives you an ID. So you have a unique identifier that when you register here, you have a researcher ID on Web of Science that you can now use when there are some journals when you are sending a paper for publication, they will ask you for your researcher ID or Web of Science ID. So create an account on Web of Science so that you have a unique identifier. Okay? Publons. Publons is where you now turn peer review into measurable research output. Peer review for a long time has been known to be free work. So you are approached by a journal to review for them. They charge article processing charges, so the authors will pay for publication, but you review for free. So most people keep saying, no, I don't have the time, because no one is going to appreciate, or no one is going to reward me for my effort. So Publons came, and now anytime you do a peer review, you can always recording on Pablons, I will show you all these things. You can always record that on Pablons, and then it goes into your record as number of papers you have published and you have reviewed. And when sometimes when projects or when organizations are looking for people to review projects for them or scientific materials for them, I've reviewed scientific information. In fact, sometimes even scientific book chapters, and you are paid for it. And most of the time, they just go on Pablons and see who is a reviewer in what specific field. So create an account on Pablons as well. This is where you convert your work, your review work into measurable. So this is basically my Pablons profile and all those things. Then sometimes when you do review, you get peer review certificates. Don't think these are very small things, my friends. I know you might think, these are things I just, even when I get an email with them, where can these things help me? I have applied for certain positions in certain projects where they want maybe somebody who will be in charge of reviewing the materials or who will be in charge of scientific communication. If you submit some of these things, they look at you differently. They say, okay, this is somebody who has demonstrated that they can review work, they can pay attention to details. So if you get some of these things, don't just throw them away. I'm just opening your eyes to some of these things, my friends. Then there's what we call reviewer credit. Reviewer credit is where you can convert your reviews into money even, or you can convert them into points that you can use in publications. I will show you how then, because this one also gives you a very nice certificate. I'll show you the certificate, a very nice certificate that you can also put. After my PhD, last week I was applying for a lecturing job. I'm not employed as a lecturer yet. So I'm now trying to look for a job. Anyway, so of course, if whoever is here has an opportunity, they can always connect me. But anyway, when I was applying, these are some of the things that I was submitting just to show them that I want to be a lecturer, because part of what I can do is I am a reviewer. I can review work, I can give feedback, and there is some of these certificates that demonstrate that I have done that before. So don't forget to create an account on reviewer credit. I will show you all these things, and we will also share these materials so that you can also follow through. Then there is what we call ORCID. I think everybody knows about this, most of us. This is what we call Open Researcher and Contributor ID. So this one disambiguates your information. So if you have Nicholas or Outa in the field of aquaculture, there are two of us, and we submit a paper, and this paper is published, and I am claiming ownership. The other Nicholas or Outa is also claiming ownership. The journal will just say, give us your ORCID ID that you used when you are submitting this paper. Then when you provide that, they will tell you the Nicholas or Outa who wrote this paper is this one and not this other one. So ORCID gives you a unique identifier, and there is no any other researcher in the world that has that identifier. So make sure you create an ORCID ID, an ORCID account, so that you get an ORCID ID, which is your unique identifier. I'm showing you these things so that you know that there's more to publishing than just writing the papers. Then ResearchGate, most of us know ResearchGate. So create an account on ResearchGate. It's also free. It also enhances the chances of somebody seeing you. There's someone who is coming to Kenya from University of Cornell to do research on Nile Perch, and they approached me because they saw one of my papers on Nile Perch on ResearchGate, and they said, Nicholas, I'm coming to Kenya to do a research. Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania, there's something I need to do on Nile Perch. It's a short study, but I would want to work with you because I've seen papers you've been publishing on Nile Perch. So just because I was visible on ResearchGate, somebody approached me just based on that. Then you have what we call academia. Create an account. These are free accounts. Why would you want to be without them? Create an account on these things. Have accounts there. Then we talk about the social media platforms that I was talking about. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Now it's called X. From time to time, be posting things about what you are doing, be posting things about your research, be posting things. If you publish a paper, just post, take a screenshot of the abstract, for example, and put there plus the DOI. You never know who will be reading and who will be seeing. So don't have very good works and just hide them, okay? Then there's an About Me page. This is one thing that so many people don't know. You can create like a very small website of your own. I'm going to show you all these things so that if somebody tells you, Nicholas, can you send me a small bio note? You don't send them a document. Just copy this link and send to them and tell them, you have my bio note. Choose whatever fits, whatever you want to do with it. The rest of it, leave it there. So you can create an About Me page for free. I'm going to show you how to create an About Me page and link them to all the other platforms that you have. Then we have preprints like Africa Archive. Africa Archive works very closely with TCC Africa. This is a preprint platform where you can upload your work or you can archive your work as it still undergoes the conventional peer review. People can already start seeing and citing your work before it is published, so that when it is published, the DOI, the other side, can be linked to the DOI that you are given by Africa Archive, and then it becomes one item on the internet. So this is an example where I published this paper in 2018 as a preprint, and then it was now published in a conventional journal again in 2020. So it was already out there for 2 years. People already started citing it. Then it was finally published. So when you have a paper, you can always reach out to TCC or you can reach out to Africa Archive. You ask them, how then you can also archive your papers with them so that it already starts being visible out there even before it's published. And guess who is looking at memes instead of submitting manuscripts? Okay, you. Okay, maybe he's pointing at me. Now, this is just a good way of ending this before I get into these platforms one after the other. It's not going to take a long time, because if I send you these slides and you don't know how to get to these platforms, it might be a challenge. So I want to show you how to navigate around each of the platforms so that you appreciate what it looks like. But instead of looking at memes, like I like, looking at memes and giggling, start submitting manuscripts. Okay, I'm talking to you specifically. And remember the red text, that in science, credit goes to the one who first convinces the world, not the one to whom the idea first occurred. So instead of looking at memes, start submitting manuscripts. If you have any manuscripts that are pending within your computer, you have not worked on them, go back, retrieve them, and start working immediately. If you have any questions, reach out to TCC Africa. You will be guided. Somebody will be there to hold your hands. I'm going back to my presentation so that I can now start demonstrating. This will take a very short time, don't worry about it. I want to demonstrate to you some of these platforms so that you appreciate what they look like and how then to navigate through them. The first one is obvious. The first one is not really a difficult one. I know all of us now know about the first one, which is Google Scholar. Google Scholar is simple. You go there and create an account for free. You can create it even when you have your Google account. You will just go and create your Google Scholar, and Google Scholar profile now has everything that you want. So if somebody wants to see, Nicholas, I wanted to showcase what you have published, just send them the link to your Google Scholar so you can see who has cited your work. These are the people who have cited our work. You can then now show them all the papers that you have published. I have up to 72 that are here. Some of them are preprints, some of them are just papers so this one is the first place. The first thing, I want you to create an account on Google Scholar. That is the first thing. I've talked about Google Scholar. Then I'll check on the next one here. The next one was Web of Science. Let me see what it looks like here. I'm just showing you so that you don't say you talked about them, but I didn't know what they looked like in practice. So we'll also share this material so that you can also try it on yourself. But make sure you create accounts on this. So Web of Science. I just want to talk about problems directly. So you come to Web of Science, then you can always log in if you have credentials. If you don't, then you can always create an account. And because these are just free accounts, no one is going to ask you to pay anything. So create an account so that every time you do a review, you document it here. So it goes into your profile as a review that is documented. That is why I'm showing you these platforms, my fellow scholars. Yeah, so that you don't say, you see, I was not. You can easily log in through, like I'm now, instead of going through all those things, I'm just logging in through my ORCID ID. Most of them are now linked. So once you create an ORCID, you can easily link them. Let me just show you what it looks like. I'm just logging in very fast so that you look at what it looks like. So this is going to show me Pablons and also on my Web of Science profile, so that you see what it looks like. So this is my Web of Science profile and also published. So all the reviews that I have done, if anybody is interested in finding a reviewer for their project or for their scientific work, they will come here, search my name, and then they will find me and then see if they want to give me some jobs or they want to be sure that I am a reviewer or not. I don't know why it's taking too long to load, but yes, you could. I don't know. Maybe it's. So it gives you information, your profile, your records, the publications you have, the grants you like here now. There are 60 documents that are here. I have 29 publications that are indexed in Web of Science, 14 Web of Science core collection publications, 0 preprints, all those things. Verified peer reviews, I have done 14 verified peer reviews. So when you register a peer review on Publons, they will reach out to, I don't know what is happening. They will reach out to the journal and ask them that there is this so and so who claims to have reviewed this specific paper for you. Is it true? Then, if the journal says it's true, then they will confirm that. If they say we don't know that, then they will say, okay, you are lying. So they will not record that under your name. So I've just shown you that. I don't know why it has acted the way it has done, but basically that is what it looks like. So it records everything. So create an account and then populate it. The next thing that I want to show you after the Web of Science was ORCID. Yeah, I wanted to show you how to. First I'm going to show you researcher credits. So no, reviewer credit. So you need to create an account also here on reviewer credit. It's called reviewer. So reviewer credits, just see what it looks like. Create an account here for free, so that if people are looking for people to review works for them, they can easily find you here, and then they will say, okay, we have a project we have proposals that have been submitted to us. We want your services in reviewing and giving feedback. Then they will pay you for that. I've been reviewing for certain projects, especially in the field of fisheries and aquaculture, and you get paid for it. I've been reviewing for a certain very big organization in Serbia, and another one in Syria, and they pay. So this is what it looks like. Here you will tell us all the papers you have reviewed and all these things and all those information. But then there's something I want to show you about this. They give you a very beautiful. So create a free. Didn't share that screen. Create a free account on this platform so that you can get your certificate as a reviewer here. So this is what it looks like. Okay. So it's not a platform that has taken long, so that's why we still have. So you see all these things, then you can always download the reviews you've done. You can always download your certificate. You can also register a review, training courses, all these things are there. There's something I want to show you. So create an account on this reviewer credits so that you are available there. If you tell somebody I'm a peer reviewer, you can always show them that. I want just to show you something here. I just want to show you review. Yeah, I want to show you something. What their certificate looks like. They have a very cute certificate that lists the number of reviews you have done. That's why I wanted to create I wanted to create here. So this is what the certificate that you will get. It will show you. To show these people the total number of reviews you've done and for which specific journals. You see, looks very nice, looks very cute. So you need this. When I was applying for that job, this is part of what I presented. So maybe it can set me apart. I'm just, hoping hopes or keeping hopes alive. So these things it could be what sets you apart in a group. I know you might think these are very little things, but to some of us, this is everything. Then ORCID, I want to show you ORCID. ORCID is very simple here. Just create a free account on ORCID here. I don't know how you call it, ORCID or ORCID, but I call it ORCID. It's also a free place where you create an account and it gives you what we call it gives you a unique identifier that there is no any other researcher that has that identifier. So you have your bibliography here. You can write anything about you. Then employment. It's like your online CV. Your employment, all these things. Then education. You can write all this, and then professional activities. But I want to take you down to works. So it also documents all your publications, everything. And the good thing is, most when you are publishing a paper, most of these journals will ask you for your ORCID ID. Once the paper is published, automatically ORCID will pick it and bring it to your profile. So I have all my papers here, all of them. So and every time I'm publishing a paper, ORCID gives me. So this is my ORCID number. I can easily just use it. I can just give it to the
Sorry, I
journal.
think you forgot to share your screen.
Oh, sorry. I needed to have shared my screen here. Okay. So this is how you get to ORCID. You just type ORCID, then it will allow you to create an account for free. So this is my account. So here I have my bibliography, all the other things, all the details. This one is my ORCID ID. This is unique to me. No any other researcher has an identifier like this. So that's why you need to have one. Your employment. This is pretty much like your CV online. Employment, educational qualifications, all these things. Your works, which means your publications, are all here. All of them are listed. So create an account on ORCID. The other platform that I wanted to talk about is called About Me, because somebody asks you, okay, can you share with me a short bio? There's something I'm writing and I want you to be part of our team. I want to give a short description of who you are and what you do. Don't struggle. Just create an About Me page. Just showing you now. Create an About Me page. About Me. Create an About Me page for free. You can always go to the paid version, but the free version also just serves me very well. So when you come here, create an About Me page, you can always go through here and edit anything you want to edit. You can edit everything. But now you see, with this About Me page, I have everything I want. I have a short video introducing Writing Hub Africa, which is a company that I run. So you write information about you. I hold up here. You can write whatever it is that somebody, if you send that link to them, this is the landing page. They will see about you, your PhD, all the other works that you are doing, a summary about you, and then how they can book a session if it's a training session. Then you can link it to your Facebook, you can link it to your Google Scholar, LinkedIn, ORCID, and also your X, so other platforms. So create an About Me page so that if somebody asks you for they will tell you, no, send me a small bio. Tell them, yeah, I'm sending you a link, just find what is relevant. Okay, that is one thing I also wanted to show you. The other platform I wanted to show you is about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I know most of us are on LinkedIn. I just want to show you because sometimes whatever I was showing you, the power of visibility was based on information somebody reached out because of what I post on LinkedIn. So I'm just going to show you my LinkedIn profile. A little bit, I'm not saying it's the best, but then you can borrow ideas on what. So this is my LinkedIn profile here. I'll just click here so that I show you what the description looks like. So this is the LinkedIn profile. So here I put here that I'm a researcher, I'm a consultant in fisheries and aquaculture. I mentor scholars in scientific writing. I am the founder of Writing Hub Africa, the Dala Intermediate Aquaculture Hub. I am an academic editor at Plus One, and I'm also a social entrepreneur. So this is just the heading. I'm not telling you this is how you should read, but I'm just, giving you an idea, how powerful this platform can be. And then about you, I've written all about me, what I am passionate about, what I have been up to, what I've been doing, the organizations I work with, and all these other things, and how people can connect to me. But then I just also want to go here and show you a few posts so that you see that I also post sometimes when I publish a paper or something like this. Let me just see, I'm just sampling a few posts, not everything, but just a few things here and there, just to see. so that people can connect with you. This was about my PhD. This was just about my PhD. So this is about the project we are doing on, it's called Youth in Sustainable Aquaculture Project. So when you post some of these things, people will always be interested. They will ask you, okay, I want to invest in aquaculture, or I am doing a research that is, or I have seen a consultancy, or we are bidding for a consultancy in aquaculture. I see you post a lot on aquaculture. Is it possible you can be part of the team? Because they are seeing what you are doing. But then, of course, before you post anything online, you need to ask for consent. So maybe you are working with a farmer, or you are working with a youth group. You ask them, I'm writing something about what we are doing here today. Is it okay if I post you? Because I took some photos that you are in. Is it okay if I post? All that. So that is so you need to, because then you might end up having issues. So this one was about what we were doing in for young women, giving them alternative livelihoods. This one is when we were in the lake trying to stock our fish cages with fingerlings. We procured fingerlings. We prepared the cages and stocked. These ones they speak to what you are doing, so that somebody knows how to relate. They know that this content relates to Nicholas, for example. So here, when I was in a conference about IoT, the use of Internet of Things in aquaculture and food production systems, write something little about it, so that this is a consultancy I'm doing at Kerio Valley for somebody who wants to incorporate fish in their landscape. So all these things. So this is a conference. So just, so that people know what you are up to. If they are looking for somebody to work with in a specific area of research, they know that, okay, I'm looking for somebody in the field of aquaculture. Yeah, there's a guy that posts a lot about aquaculture, about black soldier fly as an alternative source of protein in aquaculture. Cage aquaculture, all mentorship and all training, scientific writing and communication, all these things. So I'm showing you these things so that you see how powerful visibility can be. I think I've shown you most of this. I can't show you everything else. I think we will end it here for now. And if you have any questions, any comments, anything, any feedback at all, as we come to a close, you can share with us. Thank you so much for having sat since more than 4 hours ago. This is the plenary session now.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the most elaborate explanation on those software things. I have an ORCID account which I opened recently, and they have ever been sending for me, messages that I should upload one of my works, whether it is published or not. But I had a fear. I was fearing, which one can I even upload what has not been published in my ORCID account? Because I have the unique account number. I mean, the identifier. That number is there with me. But now, which one to upload in that account is my question. Thank you.
It's possible for people to steal ideas, and ORCID is a public place, so somebody can easily just search on ORCID and find. I always encourage people only post online whatever you think is safe to be online. If you feel that if I post this, somebody can steal and run away with it, don't post it. So I would strongly advise that you only post on ORCID what has been published, so that if somebody tries to publish it, it will be very clear that it has been published by this person. So I cannot recommend that you post whatever has not been published.
Thank you.
Any other person with a comment, or it does not have to be a question, it could be a comment or anything. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very educating class. Please, sir, I want to ask, like in our institutions here, I'm speaking from Nigeria. When you're at your final year or your MSc level, you're expected to carry out a research work, and from that you should coin out a publication. You should publish something from your work. But most times I realize that, especially those in the final year, when you say carry out a research work, they really don't even know what to do. And you find them going to their supervisors who maybe crafts out a topic and gives them a guide what to do. Okay, my question now is,
as a beginner, how do you actually know a research work to carry on? What is that thing that triggers something in you and tells you, oh, this is the right direction to go? This is what you're supposed to do, whereby you can actually carry out coin out a title from what you're doing. What's that thing in someone that makes you interested in this particular area of research and begin to do something in it? Please, I don't know if you can help me.
Does anybody want to contribute? I will contribute, yes, but I say this plenary is for everyone. We have different experiences. We can share our experiences. Anybody wants to contribute?
Oh, I think, can I contribute a bit?
Please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you see, when you are looking for a topic, maybe you need to do more of literature search and see where there is a research gap. Then after identifying that research gap, it is there now. From the research gap, you can now call your title or your research topic, because you cannot just go to your supervisor and then he guides you. It is now you who know the idea you want to do, the kind of research you want to do. Then you read and find some research gap, what others have done and what is missing, the missing link. You try and join that missing link. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much. I think you have summarized.
Just to add on what Josephat has said.
Yes, Peter.
As she said, that you can, at the end of the year, for example, Master of Science, you may be carrying out research, and once you have a novel idea, actually the thing is novelty, then you can publish that to people that I have studies had found this. These are my finding, and this is the new thing that I have found. Then it goes out as research.
Thank you. I think this guides you. There's just something I need to add.
Hello, can I add something, please?
Yes, Williams.
Okay, I'm Dr. Williams from University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria.
Yes.
I think I can relate to what her question, to Chinomso's question. How these students can develop interests and all that. Because sometimes if I do understand where she's coming from, it's like sometimes some of these students don't have direction. And you tell them, okay, go and get research topic when it's time for them to write their projects, and it's like they just go somewhere, pick 3 topics, take to the supervisors for them to approve one. Then they just start writing and all that. I think number one, it comes from the place of the supervisors or the lecturers identifying the students, taking interest in the students. There are some who are very serious that we can bring closer to ourselves, mentor these people along the path they've chosen or their area of specialization, giving them assignments to do, see how they develop, see how they do what they do, and all that. By the time you develop this interest in them, give them assignment, it's called that by so doing, some of them begin to have direction. The major challenge is that most of them don't have direction. It comes from mentoring. Pick interest in them, mentor them, give them assignments, and all that. That is, it starts growing from there. It starts developing from there. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think that is the direction Chinomso is coming from.
Yes,
so, by so
you're
doing,
correct.
am I correct, Chinomso?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. So, the bulk of the work is in the supervisors, the lecturers. We just come to the class. Some of us go to the class carelessly. We just teach and we go and all that. We don't pick interest on these people one by one. If it's master class, they're not much. If it's PhD class, they're not much. So you pick interest, give them work to do. Not at that time when they are all their mindset is, I want to leave this place to go and do other things. You now want them to come and develop interest automatically. It doesn't work that way. So I think that's my little contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Williams. You brought out something very strong about some of these things, because I think without developing interest in some of these people, when a student comes to me and now I have to help them craft all these things, they might end up doing research out of what I wanted to do but could not do, or it could be my interest not even there. So as you said, as a lecturer, it's upon them to start picking out these things early enough. But also as a student, you have the responsibility to look at what is it that is interesting to me, and what is it that is still lacking within my field, and what is trending within my field. Like right now, in the field of fisheries and aquaculture, where I am, there's a lot of research around alternative sources of protein, because we are using fish meal to formulate fish feeds. So it's like we are using fish to feed fish, and we are saying we want to reduce pressure on wild fisheries. How are we reducing pressure when we are still harvesting fish to feed fish in aquaculture? So you look at those, and then you look at, okay, now people are looking at alternative sources. So one of them is Azolla. People are also doing research in the areas around black soldier fly. Okay. So you look at around as a student, you have to be smart around, look around at what is trending in your field, and what is that thing that is new, that is a hot topic in your field. And then once you get that, then you need to answer these questions. Chinomso. Yeah, I have to practice. I'll be coming to Nigeria very soon to train researchers at IITA Ibadan. So this will be my second time in Nigeria. So I need to start pronouncing their names right. So once you identify a specific area of your interest, you need to answer the following questions. What do you want to do? So don't use a lot of words. Just make it plain first at the beginning. What do I want to do as a student? Okay, I want to do a research on the alternative sources of protein, and I want to focus on black soldier fly. Okay, so I have answered what I want to do. Why do I want to do it? I want to do it to solve the problem of this and that, or to provide information of this and that, because this is still lacking. Okay, that is why. Where do I want to do it? I want to do it in this location and all those things. How will I do it? I will do it by formulating different diets of different whatever, then feeding them on this and this. And then the last question is always, so what? After doing all these things, so what? How will this influence policy? How will this influence industry? How will this influence practice? So you need to answer those questions of what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? No, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How will you do it? Where will you do it? And so what? So as a student, after identifying all these things, you really don't have to answer these questions. Please mute yourself. Kindly mute for me, Dr. Eunice. I think maybe she forgot to mute herself. Now, as a student, you also have to be proactive, because then when you go to the supervisors, sometimes they have topics that they left pending somewhere. They started doing a project and something happened and they left it. So they say, okay, this student is the one who's going to collect this data for me, or this is something I'm interested in. I'm curious about this, but I don't have the time. So before you go to them for guidance, when you go to them with an idea, it's very easy for them to guide you. And even them, this supervisor is going to see you as a serious student. This is a proactive student. You go and tell them, hey, professor or doctor so-and-so, this is an idea I have. I want to do this. So you are going to tell them what you want to do. This is the reason. So you are going to tell them why you want to do it. This is the how. So I will formulate different diets and then feed them a Nile perch or Nile tilapia and track their growth. That is the how. Then you say, where do you want to do it? Okay, I want to do it in a specific farm because they have the facility and stuff like this. And then they so what? I want to collect this because the information I'm collecting from this is going to inform this and that and that. So you see, as a student, you are going there with full package. So even if they are going to guide you slightly differently, they already have an idea of what you are looking at or what your interest is. These supervisors will never lead you astray. They will always tell you, then maybe can we think about what are the possible objectives that we can look at. Now, you see, you are now communicating. But if you just go there as a student and tell them, I don't even know what I want to do, Professor Swan, so can you help me? How is he going to help you? He's going to pull you in his direction. So as a student, it does not only now rely on the lecturers. Be proactive, because this is your work. You need to do something you are passionate about. So that challenge still goes back to you as a student as well, even though you are going to get guidance from the supervisors. Go with something. You don't go empty-handed, because then they can put anything into your hands and you'll just pick it because you will say, I didn't have anything, so they have given me something. Start thinking within your field. What is lacking? What is that is trending, and what is interesting to me? Then you write these questions. What do I want to do? Very simply, don't go into too many answers. No, what do I want to do? I want to do this. Why do I want to do it? How will I do it? Where will I do it? Then so what? With that, you go to somebody, you have a very nice conversation. I hope we had a good discussion around that. Any other feedback, because we are now ending this, any other feedback or anything else that, yeah, this will be shared. I know somebody's asking, will this be shared? We are going to share the recording. We're also going to share the materials so that you can also read.
Yes, excuse me, Doctor.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the challenges most students face, I think it is the culture of the universities, as the other doctors explained. In most cases, students who undertake research, find themselves in dilemma, especially undergraduate students, diploma and a master student, bachelor students are always left in. You find lecturers telling students to come with the topics, they approve, then they say, you go and write chapter 1, they approve, then you move like that. And this person has never done such kind of thing before. It has not even explained how to do it. Then at the end, you find most people ended up hiring some experts to write for them, and they submit. So you find, when it comes to master level or PhD level, the person has no background. This person has no proper layup. In fact, for my case, I came to know how research is done well when I enrolled for PhD, and because of this kind of webinars. I've been supported highly through the webinars. Otherwise, in the real context, in the university where I've been, even doing masters, I have never got some support, proper support. And that's why you find, when we come for these webinars, you find students asking questions like which topic, they begin with the topic. They don't know how, that they don't know, most of them don't know that research cannot be started with a topic. You need to read literature before you come up with a problem or gaps. And that is the gap, that is the challenge most people are going through. So I'm advising my fellow students also to, inform others. There are those ones who are there in the university, they want to begin research. Others are already doing the research, but they are green. I think we need to encourage them to join this kind of forum so that through the webinars, they also get empowered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think this is just call to action that, some people think that I attend, even as it is right now, I still attend a lot of seminars and webinars where scientific writing and communication is being talked about, open science, because you keep learning. In fact, every day you get a new thing and you say, okay, I've never looked at this way, or I've been struggling with this, or I've been trying to understand this. Today, I attended a conference that only took 1 hour, but then out of that, I got, okay, so this is interesting. And for me, especially because I now deal with students and mentees, I need always the best ways to guide them. So keep attending, and if you have friends, encourage them to attend. And if you have your students, I know here there are professors and doctors who are also dealing with students. Tell them, apart from what we guide you, sometimes attend some of these things that are online. You don't know how much you're going to benefit from these places. Thank you. So we have 6 minutes, so we can still have a few things to discuss.
I have a question.
Hello.
Yes, Chomba.
Hello.
Yes, Chomba.
No, it's Williams.
Yes.
Can I still add something?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, so I think another challenge we have is this. Those of us that teach research methodology as a course in the university, whether it is undergraduates, whether it is master's level, whether it is PhD level, most times we teach these things as abstracts. We don't relate these things.
Yeah.
We don't give these students classwork, assignments, seminar that will enable them practicalize these things. Letting them know that these things are linked. These things are real life scenarios. So when it comes to the time of doing their research work, they are blank, they are stranded. And just like what somebody said, some of them contract it out. Somebody else somewhere does the work for them. They just cram one or two things, and they are given an A or a B, and that phase is over, and all that. So I am saying, in a nutshell, that those of us that teach research methodology in the universities, irrespective of the course of study, that when we teach this course, we should make these things practical, make them realize that they will need these things. This is an everyday life scenario. It's not until you want to write your final projects. So please, let's try and relate these things. This is like a stakeholders meeting. Let's try and relate these things, because the truth is, to a large extent, you can't hold these students to ransom, because some people are not doing what they should do. We should stop making this thing abstract, make it concrete. Thank you.
I think it's a good thing that we are all on this platform because we are dealing with students, we are dealing with researchers, we are mentoring people, and then we still do what we call textbook training, where we say, this is what needs to be done, this is what needs to be done. If you want to come up with a research idea, this is how, then you don't bring it to the real world, so they don't really relate, and it's very difficult for them to apply. So we need to make it as applicable as possible. I did my master's at UNESCO IH in the Netherlands, and there was a lot of role play, and that helped me a lot. There's nothing like all these things about people doing you do role play. You are told you are the one in charge of aquaculture in this country, for example, and there is a problem of fish dying in fish cages. Can you provide practical solutions? So as a researcher or as a master student, you start thinking, okay, how do I craft a research idea around issues addressing fish kills? It challenges you to do these things. So is there any other thing? Maybe Kevina, you can take over.
So just before I begin, is there anyone else who wanted to make a comment, ask a question?
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the session. My name is Shtonde Ahila from Zambia. I just completed medical school. And in my undergraduate training, I think I've also experienced the same experiences that have been described, lack of mentorship, but I think I've sourced mentorship from other places through the networks that I've joined. Coming to the point that we talked about, you mentioned Pablon's reviewer credit, and I think which other one? Okay, yes, just those two. Do preprint reviews also count on those platforms? So, for example, we have got preprint repositories like the one you've mentioned, like AfriArchive, we have got bioarchive, we have got pre-review, and they do have platforms where people can review those preprints and they get to publish them. So, do preprint reviews also count on those platforms? Thank you.
So, yes, on those platforms, there are several platforms that also accept pre-review as a form of review, but most of them don't. So they will only record them as part of. If you have published, then they will say, okay, you have published something as a peer review, but as a preprint. But when it comes to review, no. So reviews, most of these platforms do not recognize preprint review as peer review. They only consider the conventional review things, the conventional paper, the article review.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then I'll proceed. So thank you all for joining today's session, and a special thank you to Dr. Outa for guiding us through the training. If you have any feedback for him, just a thank you, just feel free to share it through the chat. I've also shared a feedback form in the chat alongside the attendance. So be sure to list your name in the attendance list and give us feedback on today's training as we conclude this scholarly communication part of the series. So as mentioned at the beginning of the training, and for those who were not able to attend, the notes and the recordings will be shared after the session. We have also shared a number of resources, including our TikTok channel, where Dr. Outa hosts mentorship sessions. And this is usually every Thursday and Sunday at around 8 p.m. East African time, which is, I think, 6 GMT. I've also shared a link to our podcast where we host conversations on science communication, research visibility, and open science. There's also a link to our WhatsApp group where you'll join a community of researchers and science communicators across Africa and potential collaborators. So tomorrow's session will be led by Dr. Grace Mureithi, and it will mark the beginning of our science communication series. So be sure to log in at the same time, on time, to benefit fully from the session. And as a reminder, the certificates will be provided to participants who attend the entirety of the training. So whichever day you come, be sure to add your name to the attendance list because we're going to cross-check them. So that is all from my end. I'm going to end the meeting in around 3 minutes from now so that you can take whatever links you need from the chat box or whatever feedback that you'd like to leave. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.